Good afternoon. So, before we begin our board meeting, what we want to do is recognize some employees that are getting what we call our Blue Sky Award. Okay, so it's our Blue Sky recognition, and the first person we're going to award. The first one is it Stephanie Blunt? Okay, Stephanie Blunt with no I. We did not misspell. I was checking. So Stephanie, congratulations. Next we have Pierce Lindeman. Hi. Congratulations. Kath, good. Kathleen Kramer. I see Kathleen a lot. So congratulations, Kathleen. Last but not least, Jonathan Henley. We also have a fifth person that wasn't able to make it here today. That's Araceli Alinas. So congratulate them as well. So right now we have our picture. Congratulations, everyone.
Hello and welcome to Opportunity Homes San Antonio's regular board meeting on Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. Please note this meeting will be recorded in its entirety. We will begin by conducting roll call. Chair Estrellita Garcia Diaz.
Here.
Vice Chair Leela Powell. Barbara Unkama Burford.
Here.
Janet Garcia. David Hewitt.
Here.
Tanika Nikki Johnson.
Here.
Kayla Miranda.
Here.
Doug Ponick, Board of Commissioners Attorney.
I'm here.
President and CEO Michael Reyes.
Here.
Additionally, there is a Spanish interpreter. Should you need their support, they will read our Citizens Be Heard intro shortly. You may now call the meeting to order.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. The Board of Commissioners or its committee may hold a closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code 551-071-076 for consultation concerning attorney-client matters, real estate litigation, personnel, and security matters. The board or committee reserves the right to enter into closed meeting at any time during the course of the meeting. It is now, 1:03 p.m. And let us now start with citizens to be heard.
Now is the time for citizens to be heard. Citizens will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Each citizen will be permitted to speak only once. The board asks the public to address concerns related to Opportunity Home matters and policy, and not include statements that may be considered defamatory of any individual. The board encourages members of the public to direct specific concerns or problems to Opportunity Home staff for more prompt resolution. The board will not discuss the comments of speakers or respond to speakers during the citizens to be heard portion of the agenda. And now our interpreter will read this section.
Sí, hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Jessica y yo estoy aquí para ofrecer servicios de interpretación para los que gusten hablar durante esta sección. La mesa directiva pide que mencionen los problemas públicamente relacionados a Opportunity Home y que no incluyan declaraciones que pueden ser consideradas defamatorias a cualquier individuo. Entonces, les recomendamos que el público mencione los problemas respecto a Opportunity Home para proporcionar una resolución. La mesa directiva no va a discutir o dar comentarios sobre los que proporcionan y dan sus palabras y no van a responder directamente a los ciudadanos durante esta parte de la agenda.
Our first speaker is Mary Kennecke.
Hi, my name is Mary Konechny. I'm a resident at Victoria Plaza Apartments.
I've been going through since October, fighting them with, well, first it was started off air quality. Back when we had the murders in 2024, we complained to the air qualities to one of the CEO or whatever, whoever it was at that time, of getting weird smells in there. And so I started, since we got the new manager and new maintenance supervisor, I thought, well, let me try going through them. Because the old one would always say, oh, we live in Texas. The air quality in our apartments are horrible. The humidity runs in the 70s. But when I started investigating all this, then after I turned in the letter to them, I noticed, I figured out how to take the front panel off. And there's an open hole in that behind the HVAC where the pipes go into the wall cavity. And so when the air's pulling, it's pulling air and dirt and everything out of that wall cavity. Several of us have complaints of brain fogness, excess moisture. They did remediation, but on their paperwork, they can't even get the date straight. The work order, I kept telling them, was November 14th, but even the attorney has November 21st as the date. And no, only post-remediation reports I've got. I've filed a complaint with the Texas Pipe Licensing and Registration, and I'm sending them what papers I have, because, yeah, it's bad. A lot of people are with respiratory and stuff, so, and if you Google and look up and read about the 4-pipe hydronic system that they have, there should not be a hole behind there. I've gotten lease violations. Nobody wants to come forward because they see what I've been going through. But I stand my ground. I'm not, like I told them face to face, I'm not stopping. My email and phone number's on there. Did y'all get a packet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I got 2 of them have color in it. If they want to see color, I told them to give you a color one and the other one, her, the color picture. So, because it just costs too much for me to keep printing. So, but if y'all have any more questions, there's a lot more concerns there going on at the apartment complex that some people weren't able to come today to talk. So, thank you.
Sorry. Our next speaker is Richard Cantu.
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. My name is Richard Cantu, and I live at the Blanco Apartments. I am a disabled resident, and speaking here is difficult for me, but I keep returning because the conditions we are living in are not safe and are not sanitary. SAHA was founded on June 17, 1937, with the mission to provide safe sanitary housing for low-income residents. Today, in 2026, that mission is not being met for the elderly and disabled residents at the Blanco Apartments. For years, we have been dealing with a hidden structure roach infestation. This is not caused by the residents. Our units are cleaned daily. The infestation is inside the walls, the gaps, the cracks, the structure of the building. Roaches enter through the openings throughout the complex, making it an unwinnable battle no matter how clean we keep our homes. I have reported this since November 2025 to Opportunity Home Staff, 311, Code Compliance, the Mayor's Office, City Councilman, and HUD through certified mail and online complaint forms. Despite all this, no efficient action has been taken. HUD has not responded. Code Compliance says they cannot act unless I allow a live infestation to grow. And worldwide pest control continues to be sent even though the treatments do not kill roaches. I document this myself by collecting several roaches from my kitchen in a mesh sealed jar before March 16, 2026 scheduled appointment. After the technician treated my room, not a single roach in the jar died. When I asked the technician to spray the jar directly to verify the product's efficiency, he refused. I reported this, still nothing changed. This is not just unsanitary, it's wasteful, ineffective, and harmful to elderly and disabled residents who cannot fight a structural infestation on their own. I also need to address a second major issue, the failure of the fire alarm system. For years, we experienced chronic false fire alarms. On February 24, 2026, the system fire alarm in my unit went off while I was steaming rice. Only my unit alarm was activated. No one else heard it. I called 911. I received a notice from the city false alarm fire reduction program for a non-registered alarm system on February 26, 2026. My appeal was granted, but after years of failures, Opportunity it won't eventually turn the entire system off. That means elderly and disabled residents are now living in a building with no functioning alarm system. That is not safe, that is not sanitary, and it is not acceptable. I am asking the board to take real action, not another referral, not another ineffective treatment, not another system that gets shut off instead of fixed. I am asking for meaningful intervention that protects the elderly, the disabled, and every resident who depends on Opportunity Home to fulfill the mission that was founded on 1937. Thank you for listening.
Our next speaker is Joe Gonzalez. Joe Gonzalez. All right, our next speaker is Belle Galvan. Belle Galvan. Dom Renteria.
All right. Hello, my name is Dom. I'm with Pueblo Over Profit and Oppressed Revolutionaries for Worker Power. Today, I'm here at this meeting to share demands from Pueblo Over Profit and generally community and public housing tenants. Firstly, the demand that public housing stay public. Public money should be used for public good. If you have public money, then you should be making public housing, not market rate housing or mixed income or whatever it is that you're building instead. Immediate removal of the 4 expired trustee seats. People and tenants should have the opportunity to choose who sits on this board, clearly. So I don't know why you think you can continue to take up a seat that's expired. Genuine community engagement. Pueblo Over Profit knocked on 100, 200 plus doors, multiple complexes. I think that was way more doors. Multiple complexes in San Antonio, public housing ones, and none of the tenants knew about these changes. Doesn't really matter why or what reason. What matters is that they didn't know the information, and that needs to be addressed. People shouldn't be getting their info about their housing from random volunteers. Full transparency. Clearly talk about what RAD is, the plan for RAD, its consequences and what happens. And I think you'll see that there'll be a lot of opposition because of the displacement that it causes. And eliminate the chief of staff position. You're getting a bunch of complaints about maintenance, and then you say you have no funding for maintenance, but you have funding to pay someone $150,000 a year. And it's a new position, so I don't see why that was a priority over maintenance. Essentially, housing is a human right, and what I've heard so far, and I think what we'll continue to hear, is that people are living in dehumanizing situations, and y'all are on the board and not addressing those, and you haven't been addressing those. Public housing should be the standard. Everyone's rent should be capped at 30%, should be income-based. And instead of protecting and expanding that kind of housing, you're actively letting it get deteriorated and attacked and privatized. Housing is a human right. People should have dignified housing. They shouldn't have infestations or maintenance issues. Everyone deserves to live in a house that's clean and that has cooling, has electricity, has heating, all year round. And yeah.
Robert Hernandez.
Oh my gosh. Hello. My name is Robert Hernandez. I'm an organizer with Pueblo Over Profit and Oppressed Revolutionaries for Worker Power. I came here today to stand up to you all who do not represent the basic needs of the people that live in public housing. We're demanding that you all vote no to proposed lease changes. Opportunity Home, which is funded, doesn't have a lot of funding, but y'all did little outreach to tell people about this meeting. Not only that, when you have organized working class people like us who are protesting outside, y'all use private security to intimidate us and tell us that we can't come in here and push off the property. That's the disgusting display of class inequality. But who is surprised this meeting is filled with suits that are hoping to displace residents and put them on the streets? You should be ashamed. Opportunity Homes is disgustingly underfunded because of capitalism and the Trump administration. Instead of allowing tenants to fix their own units, which are their homes, this is where people live every day, they should be allowed to fix these places. Y'all want to make it basically a lease violation to be able to fix their homes. That's a crime to me. You are all dehumanizing everyone here. Y'all need to do better. I've walked and talked to residents about these changes and about this corrupt board that is full with people who aren't even supposed to be on here anymore, who work for banks, Wells Fargo. How do y'all represent the people? Y'all work for banks. And a lot of them didn't even know about this. We organized people to go and have a meeting and have a protest at the Opportunity Homes headquarters downtown. And y'all changed the location on us. Y'all changed the location on us. That's not right. And they won't let some people speak. We demand that public housing stay public, the immediate removal of the 4 expired trustees, and just to get rid of them. Genuine community engagement and create a subcommittee that goes through these edits. People should be able to vote on these changes. We need to expand democracy. We live in a supposed democracy, right? Where is it? Where is it? Full transparency. Y'all are lying about a lot of things and just not even telling people about what's going on. And like Dom said, eliminate the chief of staff position. Focus on maintenance, right? Focus on maintenance. Not only that, on these proposed lease changes, y'all want to make it a lease violation for tenants to record or organize. Basically, that makes it impossible for people to get together and be stronger. We're stronger together, and y'all want to make it harder. That's not right. So yeah, without our basic rights, we will not be free. Public housing now without apology. When our housing rights are under attack, what do?
Zach Silver. Joanna Reyes.
Hello, my name is Joanna, and I'm with Pueblo Over Profit, Oppressed Revolutionaries for Worker Power, and with the San Antonio Collective Care. I work a lot with the unhoused community, and I want to say that these proposals will continue to displace and create more houselessness in San Antonio, which we already know is a big issue. All the sweet and caring unhoused people I know and have great relationships with just get treated with violence and over-policing in the streets. These changes to public housing will inevitably put tenants at risk of exposing them to more harm and trauma that they have already been experiencing. People are not given a chance to have any decent type of living at all because of people like you, board members who commodify and privatize housing just because it's only profitable and beneficial for y'all. I just want to say that housing is a human right. Public housing should be the standard, and we should we should be expanding and protecting public housing. Thank you.
Leticia Sanchez.
Hi, my name is Leticia Sanchez, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the Historic West Side Residents Association, which represents homeowners, renters, and public housing residents. Please note that some of our public housing residents who would like to speak up chose not to for fear of jeopardizing their housing. As each of you well know, our city is dealing with a major housing crisis. So how do we help people to remain housed? And what can we do to reduce the number of individuals and families becoming homeless? The mission of housing authorities, such as Opportunity Home, is to provide affordable housing for low-income families, senior citizens, and disabled individuals who can't afford housing in the regular market, to help stabilize housing situations, and to prevent individuals from becoming homeless. Sadly, the policy changes that Opportunity Home is proposing will not help to keep people housed and will ultimately increase the homeless numbers in our city. As board members, we ask whether you have considered the negative impacts the policy changes will have on residents, many of whom are children, senior citizens, and individuals with disabilities. Ask yourself whether the proposed policy that prohibits residents from duplicating or sharing keys helps to keep residents housed, or will it actually create an undue burden on that resident? Consider a senior or disabled resident who needs to have family members or caregivers enter their unit to assist them. Will they be penalized if they provide them with a key, or will they have to pay a higher fee for Opportunity Home to provide a key? How does the proposed policy to eliminate utility reimbursements help to keep residents housed? This change will increase the financial hardship for households who are zero income. This policy will increase the instability of residents and goes against the very mission of a housing authority to help stabilize housing situations. The proposal to convert public housing to RAD will remove protections that ensure housing for individuals and households most in need of housing assistance. On paper, RAD may sound like a great financial solution, but does it actually help to keep people housed? Studies from other cities that have converted to RAD show an increase in evictions, a loss of protections for residents, a high number of residents being permanently displaced, and an increase in homelessness. San Antonio's public housing is one of the greatest safeguards that exists for our most vulnerable residents. Eliminating public housing would only ensure that more of our city's residents would become homeless. So please ask yourself how this proposal will help to keep residents housed. Critical policy changes, such as the ones that are being proposed, require in-depth research to ensure that residents won't be negatively impacted. Our association asks that you vote against these policy changes. Thank you.
Jeanette Rico.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Rico. I'm a former Alazan Apache resident and an advocate for the community. I want to start off by saying housing policy is not just paperwork. It's people's lives, and every decision made in these rooms we felt in someone's home. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I want to speak on several proposed changes that could significantly impact public housing residents, and why these changes deserve a serious concern and closer public scrutiny. At the heart of this issue is the growing shift towards privatization and loss of public control. Public housing was created to serve communities, provide stability, and remain accountable to the people who live there. But when management and operations move further into private hands and residents who lose transparency, local accountability, and meaningful input in decisions that directly affect their homes on a daily lives. This leads directly into the second concern, resident stability. Housing is more than just shelter. It's safety, consistency, and foundation for families to work, raise children, and build their future. Policies that increase barriers, limit flexibility, or make it easier for residents to face penalties, displacement, or confusion can create unnecessary instability for very people public housing is supposed to protect, for the very people that public housing is supposed to protect. There are also serious concerns about oversight and ethics. When policies involve issues such as recording restrictions, method of entry into residents' homes, maintenance practices, socialization, organizing, we must ask who is being protected and who is being silenced. Residents deserve dignity, privacy, and the ability to advocate for themselves without fear of retaliation or reduced access to their rights. Other proposed changes like eliminating utility reimbursements, also known as negative rents, and imposing limits on repayment agreements would place even more financial pressures on families already working hard to stay afloat. These are not minor administrative objections. These are real-life changes with real consequences for low-income households. And when we look at the issue, the number of units offers of applicants and proposed lease revisions, we have to remember that every policy decision shapes whether housing is truly accessible, fair, and humane. So what do? We push for alternatives and protections that center residents, not systems. That means stronger oversight, resident voice in decision-making, fair repayment structures, privacy protections, and policies that preserve housing public good, not just managed asset. In closing, public housing must remain rooted in purpose to provide safe and stable, affordable housing with dignity, accountability, and proposed changes should strengthen the mission, not weaken it. Thank you.
I've been informed that Molly has ceded their time to Jeanette Rico to continue. Okay. So our next. Our next speaker is Olivia Cruz. Okay, Olivia Cruz is also ceding her time. Okay.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Estamos aquí porque queremos una vivienda digna.
We're here because
Vivienda digna es un derecho humano.
we want a humane
Si no
way of living.
tenemos una
It's a human
vivienda
right.
digna y
If
la
not-
gente rica trabaja para enriquecerse más a costa del sufrimiento de la gente pobre,
Okay.
no es una vivienda digna.
We are not dignified if we are just making rich people more rich. We are here because we work hard and we want fair and decent living.
Gracias. Y también todos los días paso por abajo de los puentes porque voy a trabajar y veo a toda la gente que vive abajo de los puentes y en las calles.
Every day that I go to work, I walk under the bridges and I see the people that are living there under the bridges on the streets.
Y es tan triste porque ahí no solo hay gente que hace drogas,
And it's very sad because it's not only people that are doing drugs that are there.
es persona que gana tan miserables sueldos en San Antonio que ya no pudo rentar un lugar digno.
They're hardworking people that just make very, very low salaries and they could not afford to rent.
Yo los veo como en la mañana se acicalan, tratan de mantener un poco limpia su ropa, su aspecto, porque yo pienso que van a ir a trabajar. No se ve gente sucia, gente homeless, como dicen, se ve gente trabajadora, pero que no pudo pagar una vivienda digna.
They don't look like homeless people. I see them myself and they're trying to get themselves together and to look decent, but they don't look homeless. They're people that just cannot afford to live in a dignified place.
Y en la noche cuando regreso de mi trabajo, los vuelvo a ver acomodando sus camitas, su lugar, sus cosas, para dormir entre la basura, en la calle, en la banqueta, en las alambradas.
And at night, when I return home from work, I see them and they're setting up their beds, whether it's on a wire or a mattress on the floor, just getting themselves ready for another night.
¿Por qué? Me pregunto, ¿por qué ustedes trabajan para la gente rica? ¿Por qué protegen a la gente rica? ¿Por qué no protegen a la gente trabajadora?
I ask myself,
Para que no pierda su vivienda digna.
why do you keep working for rich people? Why don't you work for hardworking people like us because we work hard and we need your help.
Yo los invito a que piensen en eso. Los invito a que vayan conmigo al puente todos los días en la mañana y en la noche para que vean eso. A ver si no se les parte su corazón y dejan de trabajar para la gente rica y de verdad trabajan para la gente trabajadora que ha construido este país, que trabajamos duro.
I invite you to come with me in the evening under the
Vengan.
bridge so that you can see
Vengan
what
conmigo.
I see and that you can see how hard we work, and so that you're not working for the other people, that you work for us, and that you can truly see what I see, because I know that your heart will break when that happens.
Estamos aquí categóricamente no aceptando esas reglas inhumanas que les quitan la libertad a esa pobre gente que ya de por sí es explotada por el sistema.
We feel that we're here working hard, but we have to live by these policies that aren't right for us.
Por favor, si ya no nos van a pagar un buen salario, déjenos vivir en paz en esa casa que con trabajos tenemos, porque ganamos tan poco que apenas nos alcanza para comer, o comemos, o pagamos la renta, o compramos las medicinas, o llevamos a estudiar a los hijos. Déjenos vivir en paz, por favor.
Please.
No aceptamos esas reglas, no estamos de acuerdo, nos afectan como familias.
I ask you to do away with all of the policies that are affecting our day-to-day living. All we're trying to do is make a decent living, raise our families, pay our rents, and these policies are affecting us day in and day out.
Nos afectan terriblemente como seres humanos, nos llevan a enfermedades graves por tanta presión que sufrimos, que ya nos van a quitar esto, que ahora nos van a subir aquello, que ahora nos van a subir el otro, y que ahora hay una guerra donde se está gastando millones de dólares, y ahora la gasolina está bien cara y la comida va a estar bien cara. Por el amor de Dios, déjenos en paz, que haya justicia para la vivienda digna, que haya justicia para la gente pobre, por favor.
These policies are affecting our day-to-day, they're affecting our health. All we're trying to do is take our kids to school, raise our families, and have a decent living. But please, just let us live, and do away with these policies that are making us so sick physically.
Yo sé que ya no van a poder cambiar nada, porque cuando ya nosotros nos enteramos que ustedes están haciendo algo es porque ya tienen planes, ya lo tienen todo hecho. Mírenos.
We know that there's a war.
Somos gente pobre, trabajadora. Vengan conmigo al puente mañana en la mañana, los invito, ahí enfrente de la cárcel. Vengan, ¿quién va a venir conmigo? Para que vean la miseria y la pobreza que hay ahí, porque no hay dinero para pagar una vivienda digna.
This was mentioned in her previous statement. There was mention of the war. We know that that's affecting everybody. There's no money, and so there's no food, but we're still trying to do what we do. So who is going to come with me, and who is going to see and go under the bridge and see these people, these hardworking people just like us?
Quiero que vengan conmigo al West Side para que vean cómo la gente pobre trata de vivir feliz, cómo la gente pobre trata de vivir dignamente, ya que el sistema no le permite dignidad.
I want you to come with me to the West Side to look at these people that are highly affected by the system that doesn't allow them to live with dignity.
Yo tengo 76 años y aún limpio casas y aún organizo a trabajadoras del hogar y veo la miseria, la pobreza y la desesperación de esas pobres mujeres. Y ahí estamos luchando pobremente y no podemos comprar una casa y tenemos que pagar rentas altísimas. ¿Por qué? Los que ya tienen vivienda, ¿por qué se la quieren quitar? ¿Por qué les quieren poner reglas inhumanas? Déjenlos en paz, denos justicia.
I still work daily, and I work cleaning houses. And not only that, but I also organize other workers who also clean houses. They are miserable, and they just don't know how they're going to make it. These laws are really affecting not only me, but them as well. Stop with the laws. Just let us live, and let us live decently.
Y no tengo casa porque no gano mucho. Y no me he podido comprar una casa. He luchado fuertemente para comprar una vivienda, pero no puedo tener una vivienda digna. Gracias por haberme escuchado. Vayan conmigo a los puentes para que vean esa gente. No manden a más comunidad abajo de los puentes. Gracias.
You have your houses. I have worked all my life to try to buy my own house, and I have not been able to do that. But you have your houses. I invite you, come over with me to see these individuals, and please help to put a stop to more homeless, to more individuals living under the bridge. I invite you, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to me today.
Our final citizen signed to speak is James Hamilton.
Okay, the first paragraph, our commitment to the future. Our primary goal is to ensure you have safe, modern, affordable place to call home. This is our commitment to you, transparency, stability, and dignity, which we don't have none. I'm the only resident at Opportunity Home San Antonio that the attorney sends out a letter to every politician telling them not to listen to me. Ms. Villagran and Josie Garcia, they got when they contacted Opportunity Home, they provide them a letter. We're not going to listen to Mr. Hamilton. We're not going to speak to it anymore. It wasn't this CEO, but it was a previous one, and it was still happening. You know, one of the major things that I had a problem with is, it ain't on this paper, but about organizing. We're not going to allow people that's not on the resident council to flyer a building. And if they can't flyer a building, they can't let people know that there's other help out there. And if Opportunity Home is sending their attorneys out there to write letters saying that the person that's organizing is a liar, then there's a problem. I'm a resident council president. I was removed from resident council president by a mob of people angry, right? Because they didn't want African American people on that South Side property. And they definitely didn't want him as president. I'm also the resident council president that sent the chief of staff an email, and her response was, maybe you should just move somewhere else. And you know, and I just stopped responding at that point. We have employees at Opportunity Home that's making a lot of money, but you tell them, maybe you should move somewhere else. Somebody got their ass whipped last week. 60-year-old woman beat up in the community room. No big deal. A mob of people yelled at a person. No problem. We tell the CEO or anybody else, didn't happen. That's not transparency, that's not safety, and that's definitely not dignity. I think you need to remove the part about community members not being able to organize. Sometimes your resident councils are more worried about community bingos than ensuring the safety. And during the winter storm, it was the community members that brought us food. And we didn't get it from Opportunity Home. Yeah. And the last thing I have to say, I'm going to send an email to each one of y'all, and I want that issue resolved. Thank you.
We have one more citizen signed up to speak. My apologies. We have Molly, and the remainder of the previous speaker's time has been ceded to her as well.
Oh, sorry, my glasses broke. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here today to speak on my concern about Opportunity Home's move to reposition 4 of its public housing communities to RAD. as this sets a dangerous precedent that has allowed other housing authorities in the U.S. to become real estate brokers, where they are allowed to sell off units to wealthier tenants as condos while demolishing public housing communities in the name of mixed-income communities, essentially codifying gentrification and incurring debt for demolishing and then rebuilding entire communities, a more costly endeavor versus rehabbing and maintaining their properties. We understand that Opportunity Home is dealing with an aging housing stock, but the solutions you seek should not come at the risk of losing permanently affordable housing in our city, or by incurring debt from private lenders or developers who are impacted by the changing markets, interest rates, and real affordability barriers like the cost of construction materials, need for profit margins, or even project-based voucher reimbursements by HUD, as we witness such an unpredictable, senseless, and inhumane administration vow to gut public spending for essential social safety net programs. I'm sure you have already seen today's headline that read how a federal judge in Rhode Island ruled yesterday against HUD and the Trump administration's for making unlawful executive decisions that were disruptive to how housing agencies could qualify for grants in violation of the Administrative Procedures Act. They're violating their own laws. And HUD right now, unfortunately, cannot be trusted. As the coordinator for Housing Coalition, which includes the Historic Westside Residents Association, Esperanza, and Domésticas Unidas, we serve the most vulnerable residents in the Historic Westside. And that community is representative of all public housing communities in the city. I used to be an educator for a youth engagement program at the Westway Apartments, actually. I know that community very well. And we fear the permanent displacement of families there. And our coalition alone actually has raised funds and set money aside to assist residents who face imminent eviction. And sometimes that's meant supporting families in public housing who need emergency utility assistance. Because we know that not only is having utilities a basic need, but also a leasing requirement for families to preserve their public housing. As both CPS and SAWS seek to raise their rates over multiple years, utility bills are only going to skyrocket even more, even in the face of hotter and more extreme record-setting temperatures. As we see it, that one of the rules that you want to change, which ends the utility credit for zero rent tenants, is not only theft, because it takes away a subsidy already designated for that resident, but it's also inhumane and places that them at risk of living in sweltering environments. Please work with our residents to save our public housing communities from the hands of private interests. We heard the Opportunity Home staff members say that they have a commitment to preserving those public housing communities and keeping them public, keeping them for Opportunity Home. But how do we know and trust that a new wave of staff members in the future, 10 years from now, will change their mind and want to move in the direction of privatizing our public housing stock? We want to make sure and have it in writing as a deed or written in the deed that they are not allowed to sell the way that other housing authorities have done across the nation. We have a couple minutes.
Just know, I know over half of you guys. I've been an advocate for way too long. You know that, Mr. Hewitt. You know how passionate I am. And I know Layla Powell. I know over half of you guys and what y'all used to do. You know how our housing system is so broken. And if you actually vote for this package, if you vote to privatize vouchers like the way you're doing so tragically, all you're doing is just expanding homelessness. Okay? Not just housing is a human right. Proper housing is a human right. Dignified housing is a human right. A slumlord is not better than no landlord. Okay? Remember that. Dignified, clean housing is a human right. Don't tell me something like, oh, you should be thankful for whatever you can get, even if it's shitty. Okay? don't even tell me anything like that.
But privatizing
Privatizing-
will not solve the maintenance problem.
Exactly. It will not.
We have to find other ways and more creative ways to support our public housing communities. Maybe let's support another housing bond
Right.
to bring more money into Opportunity Home. Nonprofits, we're here to support our community in the long term, especially our working class and vulnerable residents. Thank you for listening.
And make the Spurs pay for it. Make the Spurs billionaires pay for it. They lied to us. The Spurs owners lied to us about not having any money that they can pay for their own damn arena. So then make the Spurs owners pay for all this shit. And you know what? You need to actually change your name to Opportunistic. Okay? That's what y'all need to change your name to. Opportunistic Home San Antonio, not opportunity, because you're not giving poor people any kind of opportunity with this package that you're about to vote on today, if you vote for it. Opportunistic. Housing is a human right. Housing is a human right. Proper housing is a human right. Proper housing is a human right.
Due to a technical error, we do have one other individual who signed up to speak who didn't get recorded on my sheet. Staff came to inform me. Their name is Jasmine Herrera.
I'm short, thanks. Hello, my name is Jasmine Herrera. I'm the outreach specialist with the Coalition for Dignified Housing and a board member of the Historic West Side Resident Association. I'm here to urge you to help us push back against the changes that Opportunity Home is trying to make to their Moving to Work program. For instance, one of the changes prohibits door knocking and flyering in your properties. Without prior written approval by the management team, there are many concerns and questions about how much notice to do we need to give before we go out into our own neighborhoods, or how does the management determine what gets approved or not, especially when it comes to organizing and supporting tenant rights, a right that is protected under federal, state, and local laws. As the community leader of my neighborhood, I think it's important that we keep strong connections with our fellow neighbors. We've already made such good relationships with them, and stopping that would build a wall between us, amplifying the barriers that already exist in our community. Some of the things that we door knocked and flyer about are important issues like the City of San Antonio's Co-Neighborhoods project, our new neighborhood gym like the Museo del West Side, our Jardines Viviendas project, which builds community gardens with residents, connections to local resources, invitations to resident association meetings, including convivos that preserve oral histories and that give our comunidad the sense of pride, orgullo, love, and respeto of our history and our cultura, which still alive and strong in our West Side. Please don't take that away from the residents and from us as organizations to give those connections. Before I leave, I also want to mention another rule that I'm concerned about: residents not being able to have doorbells on their residence. I would like to bring to your attention that there is still tenants that are going through domestic violence, and because of this, they need their cameras for their protection, which isn't much, but it's all they have to have proof of their assaults and breaking of entries. Please, thank you.
That now concludes our citizens signed up to speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, we will move to the approval. I'm sorry?
Your mic's not.
Oh, my mic's not on.
The light is on, but I don't see.
Hello? There?
There you go. It's on now. Okay. It's hard to hear.
Okay, we're good. We'll move on to approval of meeting minutes. Approval of the March 4th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. Is there any discussion or questions? I think it went off again.
Want to try mine and see if mine's.
Are there? Is it working?
No, it's not.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hello? Okay. So is there any discussion or questions regarding the March 4th, 2026 board meeting minutes? Not hearing that there is any. I call for a motion to approve the March 4th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and minutes are adopted. Hello? This one?
Okay, well, this one works, but no, that one is not working.
It's working now.
Okay, sorry about the delays. Okay, next item on the agenda is a presentation of Housing Preservation and Modernization Plan Refresher. We have Ayana Longoria, Chief Strategy, Data and Innovation Officer. We have Jose Mascorro, Chief Operating Officer, Lorraine Robles, Chief Real Estate and Development Officer.
Thank you so much. Just as a way of a quick agenda, we'll go through the overview and why redevelopment is needed. We'll talk about what preservation of affordable means, our development process, residents' rights and protections, the community support for this and promising outlooks around redevelopment, and then of course we'll be happy to take any questions that you may have. So first off, again, as a high level, our public housing communities, they're located all throughout San Antonio, and the combined average age of our public housing is 51 years. Our oldest development is San Pedro Arms, which was built in 1920, making it now 105 years old. Our youngest and last traditional built with all public housing was Springview, which was built in 2002, makes it now 23 years old. We only have 6 communities that are less than 30 years old. And then the big 3 that account for 1,578 units, Alazan, built in 1939, is 86 years old. Casiano, built in 1953, is 72 years old. And Lincoln, built in 1940, is 85 years old. So again, we have a very old public housing community structure. Okay, it's not clicking. Okay, so to talk about the current conditions. So we have deferred repairs or replacements. These are also known as capital improvements. of our infrastructure that continues to grow. These capital needs now exceed $550 million across our public housing portfolio. At our current rates, the funding levels that we receive from HUD, adjusted for inflation, it would take us approximately 154 years to address this deferred maintenance. And that would be just what we have today. It does not include what structures will fail in the future. On top of that, our organization is losing approximately $1.4 million each month in its public housing portfolio, and this is due to federal underfunding and the rising operating and maintenance costs. And then lastly, San Antonio is one of the largest US cities, and then the last in Texas, one of the last in Texas, that has not repositioned its public housing portfolio. And so cities that have converted 100% include El Paso, Austin, Fort Worth, Corpus, and then other housing authorities approximate to our size that are in the process are Houston, Laredo, Dallas, Galveston, and Brownsville. So as we look at, that was me this time. Where am I supposed to be pointing? At you, okay. Can you go back, please? So on this slide, we show the public housing deferred repairs and replacement by city council district. And this is in line with where the majority of our public housing are. So as you can see, District 4 and District 5 say 0, and that is because there is no public housing in those districts. And then District 1 and District 5 have the largest concentration of public housing. And as you can see, the total is larger than $550 million. Next slide, please. So this is just, again, a visual to help you see some of the conditions that we face. And we're talking about foundations that are affecting structures, such as the walls and cracking and separating. This causes cabinet damage, wall fencing to fall, as well as cinder block buildings with exposed wiring and plumbing that become difficult to repair and to get to. Next slide. So we talk about why redevelopment is necessary. Right now, traditional funding housing as we know it, the model to fund it is broken, and we cannot sustain the existing housing stock. Without a new approach, thousands of affordable housing units will be lost to disrepair. And I'll share a little bit more on that in a minute. And again, there's this funding shortfall. There's the gap that is in public housing that we expect to continue to grow. And sustaining what we have, even just keeping it in existence without significant intervention is not possible. So I want to share on this next slide what our projection looks like. So as of today, or 2025, our revenue is $43 million. Our expenses are $60 million. So we are running an annual deficit of 16, almost 17 million per year. We're able to sustain ourselves through MTW, which allows us a little more funding flexibility. However, in this last funding cycle, what was just approved, we were notified that we are, what we were always fearful of was recapture. We're actually going to be dealing with something called an offset now, which is basically going to force us to use all of our reserves before HUD funds us. As you can see, had things continued the way they were, we would continue to, and this is with a 2% expected growth rate and an inflation rate of 3%. And I'll show you the next slide, which has the visual of it. And in this expected scenario, and this is what we are considering to be expected, 2% growth, inflation at 3%, we would have a 50% deficit by year 8. And revenue would be about 50 million and expenses would be at 76 million. We would need approximately 25 million at that point to cover operating expenses. But I want to get to where we also want to make sure we're looking at the worst case scenario. Next slide. In the worst case scenario, we determined we would increase the inflation rate by 1%, so it would be 4%, and we would decrease our expected growth rate to 1%. In this scenario, which again we have stated would be worst case, we're at over 50% of our operating margin by year 3. That would be 2028. So we would project a revenue of 44 million and expenses at 67 million with an operating deficit of 23 million. By year 13, we would be completely 100% upside down. Our revenue would be projected to be about 49 million and our expenses at 100 million. So we would need to cover a deficit of 51 million within 13 years. So again, we have to think about what we can do. Next slide. So we have preservation options, and all of this is captured under what we call RAD, or Rental Assistance Demonstration. It is a toolbox provided by HUD that allows different funding mechanisms and different approaches. It's not a one fits all for every community. It really would be on a case-by-case basis and would be depending on what's available and what makes sense for each community. But there are different mechanisms that we can use, including Section 18, just conversions into project-based rental assistance, that's PBRA, substantial rehabilitation and complete redevelopment, potential acquisitions, again, and if we acquire something, we can transfer the assistance into a new community, utilizing larger or commercially zoned sites to increase density, and again, that would be new construction and moving the assistance into a new community, and then, or transfer the assistance, and that would be Section 18, demolition disposition, if a housing community was no longer going to be viable. Next slide. And I want to show a sample of what a public housing conversion could look like. And this is important because, again, we want to make sure that it is conveyed, the tenant payment portion does not change through a conversion. So this would be a sample from Marie McGuire. And we have the tenant payment of rent at $278. That is their 30% of their adjusted gross income. And then from the $766 we currently receive in rent, $212 is allocated towards the capital fund, and then $276 is allocated towards operating. After a post-conversion, because we could utilize market rate rents, we would be able to request a subsidy of $1,238, and the tenant portion of the rent would continue to be $278. Next slide. So we want to talk about, again, the comparison of these programs and what the impact is to residents. So one concern we've obviously heard is that my rent might change. Rent will maintain at 30% of the adjusted income. The income eligibility is less than 80% AMI, currently in public housing, and background check criteria is set by Opportunity Home. Under a rental subsidy, we would still maintain that AMI would be less than 80%, and the background criteria would continue to be set by Opportunity Home as the owners and overseers of management. Tenant protections that are in place are relocation assistance and the right to return. That also stays in place. Under rental subsidy, there is relocation assistance and tenants have a right to return. Resident councils, resident associations, and tenant participation funds are part of the public housing program. They would also be part of the rental subsidy program. Notices and grievance processes, part of the Section 8 process, are in place under rental subsidy as well. And then this concern that public housing is publicly owned and controlled, that offers long-term affordability. This Section 8 rental subsidy would be publicly owned by Opportunity Home and controlled for long-term affordability. Next slide. So we want to talk a little bit more about resident rights and protections. So when redevelopment happens, residents are given notices. There is a general information notice, also known as a GIN, and a resident information notice, or RIN, and these are given to residents at least 90 days prior to the start of relocation. And those residents are hand-delivered, they're signed so that we're clear that the resident understands the process and has received the notice. It is mandatory for us to hold 2 meetings prior to the application, and then 2 during the application process, and 1 after the approval. However, historically, when we've done relocation and large projects, we've always held more than these required meetings. We're offering 1-for-1 replacement, and that is a guarantee under this program. For every public housing unit demolished by a redevelopment project, there will be a replacement RAD unit of the right size for the family, and these units will continue to be affordable, and this is guaranteed by HUD. Fair housing and civil rights requirements, so the RAD program will be administered and consistent with fair housing and civil rights requirements as guaranteed by HUD. Families that are in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program or receiving services through ROS programs will continue, and as I mentioned, resident council and organizing is part of redeveloped communities. And the last piece is choice mobility. Tenants that were in these impacted communities have the right to terminate their lease after 1 year of occupancy at the redeveloped site, and they can choose to turn that into a voucher and move somewhere else. But more importantly, when we talk about choice mobility, is under a redevelopment plan, every family will be given options about where they want to live, what they want to do. And so we will look for communities in the neighborhoods that they want to be in, so other public housing that they can move to. If they want to move to a different side of town or they want to be in a different area for any reason, we accommodate that. And then they also have the choice, in most cases, for a voucher. So same thing, the choice will ultimately be up to the family on what they want to do. They will be provided with relocation assistance to move and relocation assistance to come back. HUD only requires that we provide relocation assistance to move out, not to move back. But again, we have set a precedence through our prior projects that we do provide that relocation assistance to come back. And there's no reason why we would not continue to do so. Next slide. So again, Opportunity Home has made a commitment. We are here to protect residents. We are here to provide dignified, safe, and modern housing. We want to protect the tenants' rights. We will provide housing choice and mobility, and we will continue to maintain all existing housing communities with capital projects and maintenance. We are looking to preserve the affordability. Our commitment is to preserve deep affordability, and that is the 30% AMI that is so valuable and needed in our communities. We are going to approach every repositioning with feasibility in mind. Again, we will look for the best plan for each community. If it doesn't make sense, then we won't move forward. And we will be replacing one for one. We will protect the financial viability of our organization to continue to serve residents. In this process, we will seek innovation. Again, we will look to national and Texas housing authorities who have laid the path already for repositioning and learn from them. We want to lean into our MTW designation to be innovative and to provide choices to residents. And of course, keeping residents at the center of this transformation. So I want to talk a little bit about community support. And again, this is part of the research and how some of this has come about. The Grounded Solutions Network for Everyone Home Initiative conducted a study in 2020, and they provided a report back that basically was a call to action, specifically that City Council and the San Antonio Housing Authority Board take action and require one-for-one replacement of demolished or upgrade affordable housing. And again, that was in 2020. And they saw the need to start utilizing RAD as part of our preservation efforts. They cited the model for Nashville Public Housing Authority, and they had completed a one-for-one replacement all of their public housing. So they cited a promising practice that we could look to.
What's the name of the organization?
The Grounded Solutions Network for Everyone Home Initiative. So one of the conversions that we were asked to look at was the Lathrop, and this is Chicago Public Housing Authority. This is one of their legacy housing authorities that was built in 1938. It is now a mix, so as you can see, the pre of what it looked like. In 2016, the Chicago Housing Authorities and its partners released a redevelopment plan, and it called for producing 1,200 units altogether, helping reestablish the 900 public housing units with greater density. And they did try to preserve most, if not all, of the 29 residential buildings. Next slide. So the post-conversion, you can see that they were able to maintain the facades of those housing and then complete interior remodernization with modern windows, electrical, and the central HVAC. It is now a mixed-income community with 488 redeveloped apartments, and it will have completed its rehabilitation in total by the end of 2026. So it started in 2016, completed in 2026, nearly a 10-year long process. Next slide. So to show in full transparency what their development model looked like, they did start with 900 public housing units, and through the conversion process, they've come back with 300 public housing, 284 market, and 213 affordable. Chicago Housing Authority has stated that the remaining public housing units are being replaced at their one-for-one, but they are being placed in other developments. Again, this was a model that we wanted to learn from. Next slide. However, we actually had success right in our own backyard. So right up the road in Austin, we had the Chalmers Courts, again, built in 1939, consisting of 158 units. This project started in 2018 and started with 158 public housing units, and has now come back with an additional 158 deeply affordable units. So in total, they have created 300 new affordable units that are at that deeply affordable restricted, and then 400 in total that are income restricted. Next slide. You play. The final phase of an affordable housing community in East Austin is now complete. Today, civic leaders were on hand to celebrate the renovation of the Chalmers Court community. It's a neighborhood dating back to 1938 that is one of the oldest public housing properties in the entire country. The apartments were originally built when Lyndon B. Johnson was still a congressman and have since been turned into an affordable community featuring nearly 400 mixed-income housing units. The renovations include a new medical and dental clinic, as well as an expanded Boys and Girls Club. Those we spoke with say these apartments are about giving working families opportunities.
And there are so many folks in our city who want to engage and participate, but find that they have to live far out because they can't afford to live in the city. What we've done here is we've not only made room for those who have lived here in the past, but we've also increased the density at this site so that more Austin families have a chance to find affordable housing.
To learn more about the development and how to apply to live there, just go to our website at kvu.com. All right. And more importantly, we've had success here in San Antonio. Opportunity Home created the Snowden Senior Living. It is a shining example of our capacity to self-development. So in this community, we own the property, we self-developed, we hired the construction company, we hired everything that happened in it. We did not partner with the developer for this. It is an independent senior living community in the medical center area for those 62 and older, and consists of 135 modern 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, with more than 40% of the units at this community designated for 0 to 30 AMI. And I do want to share in the next slide just some more of how this community looks. It has a zero gravity entry pool. It is fully accessible. It has space for the community, for the residents to meet and gather. It has a theater room. Again, a lot of modern amenities and a lot of really great features that we are really excited that we were able to design and build. So, with that, do you have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions
On this presentation or on?
on this presentation?
Yes. Has there been any insight into the study and impact on the loss of community? Seeming to lose 2/3 of the public housing units, I would feel would decimate the sense of community.
So, and again, there is a 1-for-1 replacement. So the public housing units would have to be brought back, but not necessarily in that community. However, that again would be something that we would look at on a case-by-case basis. And ideally, I believe what we would be looking to do is, if it's possible, not only to bring all of our public housing units back, but then to also increase density.
Do we have any current units or plans that do that?
At this moment, and that's why we do not have any plans at this moment for anything that is going forward in the MTW, and I will turn it over to Lorraine for a little bit more information on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just for clarification, when Ayana spoke about, it may not come back to that community, she just means that building, that development itself. But our commitment is to bring back all 6,000 units. There is no plan in place at this moment. MTW is an annual plan, and within that plan, we have to tell HUD of our intent, how any changes that we're wanting to make, how we want to move forward with redevelopment, and the fact that we want to start utilizing RAD to reposition our public housing.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything that you said.
I'm sorry.
What I mentioned first, clarification, when Ayana mentioned that it may not come back to that community, she just means that building. But it would stay within that community. We are committed to the 6,000. And the MTW plan is an annual plan. And what it is it tells HUD the plans that we have for this next fiscal year and to move forward. And it's any kinds of changes, that some of the changes that you heard from our citizens to be heard, and also our desire to move forward with a RAD conversion. But no plans or applications have been made and submitted to HUD on any of this reposition.
Okay. I do have a question. So my concern, which prompts the question, I think it's my mic. Okay, I don't know. Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. It started off as 158 unit, right? It became a 400 income mixed. The 150 families that were in the families that were in the 158 units, was there any type of displacement since the whole new community did not convert over to complete public housing?
So forgive me, was this Chalmers or was this Lathrop?
I don't know. I'm flipping through the,
It's Chal-
'cause I
so
don't have
Austin?
the presentation up.
Yeah, Austin did a really cool thing too, because, and it wasn't part of this video, but I saw another video. But they built on the site, but they built in phases. So there was no displacement. People actually stayed in one part of the property and then moved into the new units, and then they worked on the next phase.
I'm sorry, I was flipping through and don't have the presentation up. Thank you.
I have a few things. On the project in Austin, there's a reason that it went so well, and that was community organizing.
Absolutely.
Ruby Roa was the president of the resident council. We're good friends. And I toured the property in 2019. And it brings up the Everyone Homes initiative from 2020. I was in one of those steering committees. I was probably the one that brought up RAD, or Graciela was, because of the way that the project went before more research into all of the things that happened with RAD redevelopment. That was a very unique project, and it had a strong community backing. And any project, that's what it requires, is the ability to organize. And there were people there every step of the way. So that's a very special project in Austin. And it's the exception, it's not the rule.
No, but we would love to do the same here. And we're asking for all of you to work with us in our planning.
Okay, and so it's 12 on here, this one, where it breaks down the rents. Can we bring that up so people can see what I'm talking about? Slide 12, yeah. Okay, so we see on, it's this one.
The blue and yellow.
There we go. Oh, okay, really? So it shows on one side, it shows pre-conversion and the other side, post-conversion. We know that with Section 9 public housing, we get very little subsidy. And it depends on how much rent the tenant pays as to how much more money comes in on top of the subsidy. But we have no debt. We have no mortgage. We don't owe anybody any money. There's no possibility of getting behind on payments, on foreclosure, on having a third party interfering in the operations. And it shows such a large gap, so much more funding per unit coming in. But what I don't see on this is how much of that is going to go to the mortgage, how much of that is going to go to a third party developer if you bring one in, which keeping public housing public is about not bringing in that third party. And how much more cost there is to the tenant that is not rent. Everyone saying that it's going to cost the tenant more has nothing to do with rent. The rent calculation is the rent calculation. It's going to be 30% of their gross income. Be very clear, it is gross income, so that you don't get credit for taxes, you don't get credit if you pay child support. You can be paying $500-600 a month of child support. You don't get credit for that. So they are taking 30% of your entire gross income and calculating with certain credits. How much more cost is there going to be on the tenant? How much more is the light bill going to be? Do they have to pay water where we don't pay water now? What are all the extra additional fees going to be? A key fob fee, a parking permit, a parking spot, washer dryer units. Are you going to charge for the dishwasher? Are they going to have? Are they going to have to pay for the amenities in the property, like the pool and the fitness room and the community room? There are so many more charges and costs on the tenant with these types of properties. How much more is going on the tenant?
Okay, so I'm going to go from when you first started and address that concern, or that comment rather, because you stated, there's no mortgage, there's no fear of foreclosure, HUD owns it, what have you, and all those things are accurate. But it also does not allow us to improve the property. It does not allow us, and while we might do light maintenance, and I know that it needs more than that. It's repairs and replacement of systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, right? So with the way it sits right now in HUD's hands with no mortgage, we can't borrow on it, right? So we'll never be able to improve it. If we take it out of HUD's hands, put it in the hands of the organization, of the housing authority, and this is important because there was a young lady, I think she spoke last. She said, what can you do? Can you give it to us in writing that you're going to preserve that affordability? So one, we've talked about tax credits, right? So there's a land use restriction agreement that's required by the state that we record in the real estate records that preserves that affordability. So it doesn't matter what happens, that property has to be preserved. The other thing is HUD requires a RAD use agreement, which means that property has to stay affordable in perpetuity. So there's your reassurance. It's going to be recorded in the real estate documents. So it's on the record. So when we talk about real estate and you go to a title company for closing, they have to search those records. They have to make sure that they're abiding by any restrictions that are on that property. And so it can't just go to the highest bidder. So I wanted to make sure that y'all knew that.
That's a renewable.
Okay, we'll get to that too.
That's a renewable contract every 20 years, correct?
No, RAD use agreement is in perpetuity.
Okay, and what's to stop a new board, a new housing authority with
That
these
use agreement.
directions to do this? Strike out the little red strikeouts and say, well, you know what, we're not going to do that.
So
what's to stop that?
So it's that real estate recording that will stop it because it has a restriction. So again.
Can I get a copy of an example?
Yes, we can do that.
Because I need to see the actual words of the
Okay,
language.
we can do that. And forgive me, because in going into my explanation, I forgot what the
sorry.
next part was.
The actual cost, like how much of that breakdown on that, how much of this is going to go to the mortgage? How much of it's going to go to the additional operating costs because, the properties, they don't have pools and fitness rooms and all this other stuff. So it's going to cost a lot more money to maintain those units even after they're built. So what is that? What is the real breakdown of this?
Okay, so first, it depends on how we redo those properties. We talked about each property is a case-by-case basis, right? Some of them need just a little bit, some need somewhere in between, and then some need total redevelopment. And I'm going to tag team with my colleague here. But for those, I think you were at PCDC, there's one that we won't even have to get a mortgage on. We have the funding available through grants and monies that the agency has. It would be great if we could get some housing bond funds for it as well, in order for us not to have a debt on the property. But if we do have a debt on the property, that increase in subsidy from HUD is going to provide us the opportunity to be able to make that payment without the residents feeling it. So again, you explained it, it's income-based. And I think it was Dom too that said, you know, I want to make sure that it should be income-based. 30%, that's it. We're not going to overburden our residents. And that's what it is. It doesn't matter what the amenities. All the units are the same. You get all the same property. You get use of everything. And you still pay 30% of your income.
I was not asking about the rent. I am asking about the total cost difference to the tenant, which includes additional utilities, additional costs, a parking spot, a parking permit. Some properties charge for the use of a dishwasher or a washer dryer unit. They're junk fees.
Chief Operating Officer. To answer those questions, it's going to be a project-by-project basis. But in general, our plan and our commitment is, for starters, energy-efficient units. So costs for utilities will be lower than anyone is experiencing right now in a current public housing unit.
Okay.
Secondly, the amenities that you mentioned, such as washer dryers, dishwashers, all of those would be included in the unit for no additional fees. That is simply our plan and commitment to modernize the units for the families in our communities. If there are parking fees, those are things that we can work through as we go through all of these redevelopment plans. There are no plans to charge additional fees to any residents that are coming over from public housing into the PBRA.
Can we get that in writing?
Sure.
And then there was one other thing. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to take up everybody's time here. Yeah. The Snowden Senior Living, is that AMI-based housing, or is it about project-based voucher?
Is it?
It's both. It's mixed income.
Both, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a question. With regard to all these plans and these changes, what is our plan to ensure that we have the infrastructure, manpower, and the plans in place for what Commissioner Kayla was discussing with regard to outreach, with regard to having staff dedicated to our residents that may have questions, that need to navigate through this process, that need more hand-holding, understanding? What are we doing to ensure that we provide those types of assistance?
I'll make a comment and let Lorraine add to that if I miss anything. So on the development side, and our development team, we're working through all of the checklists with our consultant to make sure the experiences that people have seen nationwide, the negative experiences, are not repeated. That said, that will include staffing to help with resident relocation, dedicated to working with each family to make sure that their needs are met during any type of redevelopment process. That also means having the staffing to make sure all of the plans for the redevelopment are put together so that it is in the best interest of our communities, not just a developer or some other entity that just because this is how RAD is done. There's evaluations, and we've heard a lot of the comments, and we've seen some of the negative situations nationwide that we do not want to repeat.
And I'll just add that our plan is to start small. We know we've never done this, and we're trying to learn from our counterparts missteps and ways to improve the process. So we're starting small. So we've chosen developments that are smaller in number so that it's more manageable, and we can really dig in and make sure that we're giving that personal touch and making sure that we learn from the residents as we start to meet with them and develop, what is a list of what are the concerns, what are the things that we need to ensure so that they have a smooth transition into this, and so that they're fully aware as well. So our plan is to make sure that there is plenty of opportunity for engagement, and not just for residents, but for community as well.
Okay, so just to kind of add to that, one of the notifications, or the notification slide you had, listed a 90-day notification period, correct? So is that runway for this help and notification and outreach and all of that, is that within that 90 days, or are we looking to do this far before those 90 days even start?
Far before. So that's the minimum requirement, right? And even up to 120 days. But we can exceed that. We don't have to go by that.
Okay, and so can you give me some insight as to what that plan looks like, as far as once we start choosing, or we've made the decision to move forward, when do the boots on the ground start having those conversations and reaching out to residents?
Almost immediately. We've been working on our presentation and all of our documentation, informational handouts, so with our consultant, so they're guiding us. But once we're approved to move forward, we would like to start immediately so that we can start informing. We make sure that the staff is aware, but now with these developments that have been selected as the first 4, we'd like to go and meet with the residents first, of course, right? And start those conversations and make sure that we have plenty of time to talk them through it and make sure that there's an understanding and that they know how this is gonna roll out. And then we'll go into the community meetings. But we'll have as many meetings as necessary in order for them to fully understand what's happening and what they'd want as their best route. Do they want to stay in public housing during the redevelopment? Or if it's a rehab, even if it's 2 weeks, we have to have a relocation plan. Everything has to be documented. How we're gonna do it, they have to provide input for that. We do all the research to make sure we can tell them what's available in the area. We take them to go see it, the whole 9 yards.
Thank you.
Hand-holding, yes.
I do have one. I do have a question related to the notification. Can you define hand-delivered? And because what I want to make sure is that we're not leaving a notice that there is an actual contact with the family.
So, oops, sorry. We were just talking to the staff about this because in talking about the planning and how many meetings or what have you and the hand delivery, I said, in working with the relocation, it's important not just the meetings, not just the notifications, but that we touch each and every resident. Each and every resident is met with and spoken to. If it becomes difficult, we will do whatever we have to do to make sure that we schedule a time that's convenient for them to talk them through it. They miss the meetings, it's okay. We're gonna take it to them.
And I do know that in some previous cases, we have requested meetings with tenants who have refused to meet with us, so we can't force a tenant to meet with us. Is that right?
That's correct. I mean, we would hope that there be the interest and understanding what's gonna happen. And at that point, and I'll ask my colleague what we can do besides door knock.
Best thing is to encourage until the final day that you need everyone to be relocated, or that final unit that needs to be impacted. After that, it's an unfortunate and difficult situation that you'd have to pull in legal. We absolutely don't want to do that. But as you engage, and you would go one-on-one on the relocation side after you have all the resident meetings, even lining out on paper the plan for them and that they can sign and receive. This is the agreement that we have for you. We sign it, they sign it, they have a document in front of them that says, this is what I'm doing and this is what I've agreed to do, and we walk it through. But if you have residents who are difficult to communicate with, or they're avoiding you, we'll do what we can. We'll even engage other residents, resident council that may have some level of sway and influence on those individuals to help. But we absolutely want to be able to meet with each and every one.
Thank you.
For clarification, can either one of you, or if Ayana needs to answer, the mobility and choice with regard to these relocations, can somebody explain to me, as rudimentally as possible, how that impacts anyone if it does? If they are, if it's a deeply affordable unit, they maintain that regardless of the location where they're going. It's true choice at the same level of payment, rent payment, or expectation. Like, can you break that down for me,
So-
please?
Choice mobility within the RAD redevelopment rules is very specific that once a resident moves back to a redeveloped unit and they've moved in, they have the opportunity after 1 or 2 years to convert that project-based subsidy into a mobile voucher if they want to. That is voluntary, that is their choice. We'll support it. It gets absorbed into our overall housing choice voucher allocation. But what happens at the site, once that person moves out, that next resident that moves in still has project-based subsidy in that unit. So it's replaced.
Okay.
Did that answer the question?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a quick comment real quick.
Absolutely.
So, Madam Chair and Co-Chair actually asked the questions that I wanted to about the community engagement, but if I could, every time, but if I can make a quick comment, I'm really big on community engagement. And one of the things I've learned is having a listening session is just as important as having an information session. By the time information is given, most decisions have been made in a situation, which is where we have residents that feel unheard and are very angry because they weren't a part of the planning or the decision-making. It's like choices are being taken away. So when there are listening sessions, we give them an opportunity to be heard, and we take into consideration what their needs and their desires are, things that may not work, and even what their fears are, which are very, very important here, because sometimes those fears are created because they don't know all the information, or it's created because information is given, and you're just like, wait, but you didn't ask me, and I don't want this, and it scares me. So I just want to encourage, as we go deeper into our community engagements, that we are having listening sessions, and we are definitely hearing out and making sure that, and I know we are doing the best that we can to notify, but really going that extra mile, because we don't want to leave a huge demographic of our tenants behind that just don't know and they really want to be informed. Thank you.
So if I can respond to that briefly. As I mentioned earlier, we've seen actions taken nationwide of what actions we do not want to repeat, and that absolutely is one of them. If you're rushing into a whole redevelopment process, people get lost, and it creates all types of tension, concerns, and fear.
Yes.
We absolutely do not want to do that. So we appreciate that feedback, and absolutely will incorporate that into our process.
And I appreciate yours. Thank you.
I want to add on top of the commissioner's comment, like, how is staff being prepared to be, to properly engage with the community, to listen, like there to be this consistency that everyone's knowledgeable and can answer the questions and, respond to, the community's concerns in a consistent way where they're not hearing, oh, this staff told me this one, how is that, like, what are you doing to get the staff prepared?
So we have been doing trainings and also meeting as a small group. And then once we decided what properties were going to be included in the first 4, started to bring in those staff members. And then as we meet in our leadership teams, we start sharing the information and then determining who do I need from this department, who's going to participate from this department, so that everyone's on the same page. The other thing is going to be consistency. I mentioned that we're working on the presentation and the materials that we'll provide to all residents to make sure there's a clear understanding and that they have something in their hand that they can refer to, right? Where was I going with that? You said consistency, that's where I was going, is we've got it in writing. Staff, all staff, regardless of departments, are being trained. We do have a community development initiative department that's the closest with our residents, right? Because they're already working with them. So they'll help lead that effort. However, it's going to take staff from across the agency to participate in order for us to do this and do it well. And so everyone's going to get the training. There will also be consistency, which means we're going to have several people, including myself, that will attend all of those meetings to make sure that the information being provided is consistent each and every time.
Thank you.
Will we be extended invitations for?
Absolutely.
Additional questions?
Commissioners, if I can add a few things just on the public ownership part of it, because I think it's really important. When I heard about this many years ago, my first thought was absolutely not. This is our most deeply affordable housing. It's the last line of defense for our families. We have to protect it. It's a non-starter, right? If we have to engage some private developer to own our properties, absolutely not. But part of me is also thinking, well, how do we fix this, right? We have these deferred maintenance. We're losing operating subsidies. We have to fix this. There's not a choice, but how do we do it? In my mind, I was thinking, well, why can't we just simply, if HUD requires a separate entity to own this stock, let's create that entity, let's create that corporation, because we decide to write the rules. We write them to ensure that our residents are protected. But then as we learn more from housing authorities like in Cambridge, Massachusetts, they did that very thing. They wanted to ensure that their stocks stay publicly owned. So what happened was they transferred their housing to their legal entities, and they retain ownership. So in our case, we have a housing facility corporation, which is our legal entity that helps us to build housing. So I didn't think that was going to be an option, but housing authorities around the country have been doing it. So, you know, in simple terms, it's like transferring our housing from our checking account to our savings account. We own that account. We have full control over it. So that's permissible. And so that's something we don't talk about often, that housing would stay owned publicly, and we have to ensure that. Because if we look at other housing providers in the city who are building housing, including the Housing Trust, most of those folks in our housing list, our housing waiting list, cannot afford to live in those housing because those are tax credit units. We have to make sure that they stay 30% of income because no one else in our city is providing that. So we have to protect that. Second, over the last few decades, we lost 1,744 public housing units. And that's Faircloth, after Senator Faircloth in DC. We're going to try our hardest to bring those back because, again, our families on our wait list need those units to pay 30% of incomes. They don't need additional tax credit units. They need those units. So they have to be incorporated into our redevelopment moving forward because our city needs it. Third, we heard earlier about creative ways. We've been thinking about this hard for the last year, right? We want to make sure we get it right. Creative ways to move forward. One creative way is, for the first time in our 89-year history, we sought a credit rating from Standard & Poor's. So we're now a credit-rated agency. We have our own credit rating. What does that mean? We've become our own bank. So we can finance ourselves. We don't have to go to a Bank of America. We don't have to go to some private lender. We finance our own development and even keep our financing public. Now, can we do that across the board, all 6,000 units? Most likely not, but we're going to try hard to use that mechanism to keep even our financing public. So again, we put a lot of effort into this. We cannot do what other housing authorities did with RAD across the country. We have to make sure that it stays publicly owned, publicly managed, and we have to bring back as many of those 1,744 that we lost back online because our families need it. So I wanted just to emphasize those 3 points.
Can I ask a question of the CEO, talking about the portfolio? Do we have, or have we had recently, units that are either offline or had to be demolished because of their condition?
We do, and I'll ask Jose to chime in, but we do have some units that are offline because they're so bad condition at this moment. In fact, our mayor, we went a few weeks ago, and she toured one of the units, and her remark to me was, no human being should live in here. And so we have a responsibility to make sure that those units are inhabitable, are livable, that any of us can live in them, or we would put any of our family members in them. So we have that responsibility to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? want to give everybody an opportunity to ask if you have any. Okay. With that, thank you for your time. And we will continue on with our agenda and move on to our individual items for the day. Item number 5, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6921, authorizing the proposed 2026-2027 Moving to Work Agency Plan, Nicholas Tennessee, MTW, and Strategy Analyst.
Alrighty. Should be good. Just gotta get closer. Okay. Alrighty. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Nicholas Tennessee, MTW Strategy Analyst with our Strategy Data and Innovation Department. And today I'm going to go over our proposed final draft of the FY 2027 MTW plan that we will seek your approval on to be able to submit this plan to HUD by our April 15th deadline. So SDI, the Department of Strategy, Data, and Innovation, oversees the organization's MTW designation, including the coordination of annual planning and reporting, as well as year-round implementation strategies. So as you may recall, I, along with our public housing and housing choice voucher directors, presented these plan proposals to you back at our March board meeting. And these are updates around our ACOP, which is our admissions and continued occupancy plan that governs our public housing program, our admin plan policy updates, which governs our housing choice voucher or Section 8 program, public housing lease revision proposals, as well as MTW activities, which are those regulatory waivers, as well as public housing repositioning strategies and efforts. And all of these are packaged up into our MTW plan, which serves as our organization's annual plan. So at the time, back in March, when we proposed this, or shared these proposals to you, we were in the middle of our 30-day public comment period. That ended on March 20th. It started on February 18th. And so today, like I said, I'm going to bring you the final updates and outcomes of that public comment period. But before we go into those updates around the conclusion of the comment period, I do want to start by re-establishing what MTW is for clarification. So MTW stands for Move to Work. It is a federal designation given to Opportunity Home by HUD, which allows a level of operational flexibility that standard housing authorities do not have. This includes the ability to implement regulatory waivers, which allow us to waive certain federal regulations, which allows us to test new and innovative ways to deliver our programs and our policies for our residents that are typically not allowed under standard federal regulations. It also allows us a different level of funding to come into our organization under one single block grant to be used with a little bit of a higher level of discretion than standard housing authorities. So all housing authorities are required to submit an annual plan to HUD along with 5-year capital improvement plans. So our annual MTW plan takes the place of those plans. It provides HUD and our residents as well as the public with updates on how we intend to use our MTW flexibilities each year. And this, along with our MTW annual reporting that we give to HUD as well, and our residents, provide the public, our residents, as well as HUD with annual records showing how we use our limited resources, showing what our MTW activities or those regulatory waivers are, and whether they are achieving their intended goals. So this MTW designation flexibility has 3 key objectives. Cost efficiency or effectiveness, so we're trying to reduce our costs and achieve greater cost effectiveness with our federal dollars. Increasing housing choice across the city, and providing incentives to assist work-able households to achieve economic self-sufficiency. So everything that we do under this MTW or Move to Work designation is done with those 3 key objectives in mind. This works in tandem with our organizational mission, vision, and values to serve the residents of San Antonio with quality, affordable housing. And so, as a reminder on how the annual cycle takes place, we typically begin our planning in the fall, which is October, November, December. And at that time, our department is having discussions around strategic priorities. We start reviewing recent feedback from our resident strategic surveys that we implement, and we're beginning to look at the next year's budget. So SDI then begins to coordinate efforts with internal departments on program policy updates, on capital plans, as well as housing expansion plans. So by mid-February, we have put a draft together of our MTW plan and initiate a 30-day public comment period, which takes us into late March. After that, we develop the final draft of the plan and bring it to the board in April, as we are here today, for approval to submit to HUD by our April 15th deadline, which is our annual deadline. So throughout May and June, after the plan is submitted, we respond to questions and clarifications from HUD, which then hopefully gives us approval for this MTW plan by July 1st, which is the start of our agency's fiscal year. Sometimes they are late, but typically we do try to get approval before July 1st. So during kind of those off months of August and September, that is when our department is going back and reviewing the previous fiscal year and start reporting back to HUD. So now we're going to go into engagement and the outreach summary from our public comment period. So as I stated, the public comment period does serve as a chance for our residents and the public to review the document, as well as provide their feedback on our annual plan. The marketing done throughout this time is typically targeted to our residents of our properties, since the proposals do affect them directly. And so this year, our public comment period began on February 18th and concluded on March 20th, providing our residents and the public 31 days to review our proposed plan. And so, as you can see on this timeline, on February 20th, we had a public housing briefing at Lila Cockrell Apartments. Also on that same day, we briefed our resident advisory board on these updates. On February 24th, we had a public housing briefing at Villa Veramendi. February 26th, we had a briefing at Casiano. On March 5th, we had a briefing at Madonna. March 10th, a briefing at OP Schnabel. And March 12th, a briefing at Fair Avenue. And then on March 13th, we had a briefing with our Housing Choice Voucher residents. And so across the 31-day public comment period, we did have a total of 61 attendees across the in-person presentations. And we also record the presentation in its entirety and post it on our website publicly to allow anyone who may not be able to attend the in-person presentation to view the presentation at their discretion. That video did receive 40 views. And so for the resources that we do post, on top of posting just the annual plan, which is a very long, large plan that has lots of language in it, we do understand that it's a little bit difficult to read that sometimes. So we do put together, beside the video presentation recording, an executive revision summary to call out where some of the bigger changes are happening. We also work with our policy staff to give a ACOP and admin policy revision summary to call out where the big changes are happening in those policies as well. And then we do also include an FSS action plan revision summary to call out where changes are happening within our family self-sufficiency action plan. And so notifications on these do go out to residents. Much of it is via email, and then we do have digital signage at the property. We also print the signs and send them to property management to let them be able to post throughout properties and include them in our resident newsletters. We also do flyer the property where possible, and then we post all of these briefings that are happening early on to let our residents know where they are occurring on our website. And then, of course, direct invites where possible, and especially for our resident advisory board, they are given direct invites to let them know to attend the presentation. And so going into public comments that we received throughout the comment period. Great. So we did receive a total of 49 public comments across this public comment period. I'd like to note that all of these comments are received, and they were listed verbatim in the annual plan. It is in Appendix A, which starts on page 55. Most comments received are through our email address. And then a small handful of them are received via physical means, either there when a resident fills out a comment card there while we're giving a presentation, or via mail. And so I'm going to start to walk through the proposals that were commented on at kind of at a high level to give updates as to their final determination and whether any adjustments were made after reviewing the received feedback. So the first proposal I'll be reviewing is our proposed MTW activity, the elimination of negative rent. For this proposed activity, there is no adjustment, and we will keep the proposal in the plan for review and approval by HUD. And I'll explain further and share some data on this next slide. There we go. So in the plan, as I stated, we are including one new MTW activity entitled the elimination of negative rent, which will eliminate negative rent reimbursements for work-able households. As a reminder, this does not change the calculation of the TTP, which is the total tenant payment, or eliminate the utility allowance, or UA, that the households are receiving. It simply caps the portion of the utility allowance to the point of an equal or $0 floor. This will help result in greater cost efficiency and reduce administrative burden, as well as align with federal directives that are promoting economic self-sufficiency for work-able households. So we are consistently monitoring HUD regulations, as well as directives that they are putting out to determine kind of where the administration is going. And so there is always a chance that HUD could implement this elimination nationwide. What we are doing is taking the proactive approach in proposing this activity. However, there is no specific timeline for implementation or a guarantee of implementing, as there would need to be work kind of on the back end of our organization with internal operating departments to determine how the programming would or could work. And so on the right side of the screen on the data breakdown, looking at data as of February 26, across our public housing portfolio, there are a total of 1,028 households that are currently receiving negative rent reimbursements. 977 of those are work-able households that would be affected by the activity. And it's important to note that 249, or about 25% of those affected households, are currently enrolled in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. And then in our HCV program, there's a little bit of a more nominal number of households that are receiving the reimbursements, a total of 44. 43 of them would be affected as work-able households, and 3 of them are currently enrolled in FSS, so about 7% of the affected households. Note that we did bring this up to our Resident Advisory Board, or RAB, which is members of our public housing communities, as well as our Section 8 participants. There was no major concerns raised on this activity at the time, but again, if approved and once implemented after confirming that programming requirements can be done, there is hardship provisions built into the activity for those who may become imminent risk of utility shutoff, and we would continually monitor these hardships along with all of our other MTW activities that continually monitored throughout the year to determine whether it's achieving its intended goals. So next, we proposed a public housing lease revision around solicitation, which would have prohibited the placement of any signs, flyers, or advertisements throughout the property and common areas without prior written approval. I'd like to note that this proposal came about after resident feedback that was given to us revealed that residents were receiving numerous solicitation attempts from other residents at all hours of the day, which could lead to consistent disturbances of their housing accommodations. And so after reviewing the public comments and after internal review, we did decide to remove this policy from the plan. But we would like to note that residents do remain under lease obligation to refrain from disturbing other residents' peaceful enjoyments of their accommodations. And then we would also like to note that we do, throughout this time, receive various property-specific concerns to our MTW email. When this occurs, we do forward them to our customer service staff where possible to make sure that they're followed up on appropriately, since it doesn't necessarily impact the long-term MTW plan, but we do ensure that we forward it to our customer service staff so that they can be followed up with. And so next, we go into another proposal around the lease, the public housing lease, a revision around recording on property and prohibiting residents from recording others without consent. We did receive numerous comments around the legality of recording in Texas due to existing law as well as one-party consent. And so these concerns were brought up of residents who may be documenting property issues or any non-criminal related activities, which would have gone against this policy. And so after internal review, again, we did just determine that this policy could contradict also the policy proposal around allowing video doorbells, which I shared in the last board meeting. And so this led to the decision to remove the policy proposal. We would like to note again that residents do still remain under lease obligation to refrain from disturbing other residents' peaceful enjoyment of their accommodations. Going into another policy, public housing lease proposal involving keys and methods of entry. Initially, the policy stated that we were adding it to strengthen property security. The new provision mandated that residents maintain exclusive possession of all access devices and strictly prohibited the duplication and sharing of keys and fobs with any non-residents. It did also prohibit behaviors that compromise building security, such as propping doors and allowing unauthorized tailgating into the premises. We did make minor edits to this policy and updated the wording to state that all household members are strictly prohibited from duplicating and providing access devices to any guests without management approval. We left the wording stating that tenants shall not engage in any conduct that allows unauthorized entry to the premises, such as propping doors open or permitting non-residents to follow behind them. And so there was comments received on this policy. Most of it was external non-residents that we determined, which that were concerned about the specifics around this policy proposal. So for clarity to our residents, any non-resident guest who needs consistent access to the premises for any reason, whether it be healthcare or any other reason, should be taken to their property management. And then additional keys and fob devices can be issued as needed on a case-by-case basis. The policy, again, was formed to increase security at our properties and make our residents feel a little bit safer, as this has been a consistent request from our residents throughout the past few years. Go back, there we go. Alrighty, and so going into the proposed admissions and continued occupancy plan, or ACOP policy revisions, there was multiple updates to our ACOP that govern our public housing program involving RPAs, or repayment agreements, and we have updated some wording to help with clarity. We remind you that all current repayment agreements or RPAs in effect would remain unchanged. All households will continue to be able to pay on those, and we added wording to state that a repayment agreement may be offered at Opportunity Homes' discretion based on the policies outlined in 16.3.b. And you would find that wording reflected in section 12.4.g(c) of the ACOP. We also updated wording to state that exceptions to this policy may be made on a case-by-case basis, including hardship exemptions outlined in 6.3.b. And that wording you'll find reflected in the ACOP under section 16.3.bf. So the organization, we'd like to share that the organization implemented a more broad scope of repayment agreements, or RPAs, that we were offering during the pandemic, but we are reverting back to the policy of standard RPA offerings for underreported or unreported income. This still allows an added level of flexibility when repaying debts owed, as federal regulations don't require RPAs to be offered at all, so we do like to offer them for unreported or underreported income and take it on a case-by-case basis as needed with hardships. Going into the public housing repositioning plan, multiple comments were received involving our proposed repositioning plan. We did receive comments both for and against the policy changes. There will be no adjustments to this proposed plan, and we will move forward with proposing 4 properties for conversion, which will be Terrytown, Westway, Villa Hermosa, and the Lofts at Marie McGuire. It is important to note that these 4 properties are the only properties within the MTW annual plan, meaning that we could only initiate formal application for conversion in FY27 for these 4 properties and these 4 properties only. No other properties would begin conversion as they are not in the MTW plan, meaning that HUD would automatically reject them. We'd also like to note that this is not approval of the application process, and at this time, none of the sites have been formally selected or applied for. Once a site is chosen and after resident consultation, as you've heard earlier, formal applications would then begin. And then the next few slides, I'm going to kind of reiterate some common misconceptions and misinformation that has gone about to help clarify for our residents what the facts are around this repositioning strategy. And so, under the right to return, there is, in our public comments that we received, there was lots of comments received around the fear of displacement for residents from properties that undergo conversion. The fact around this is that residents have the absolute right to return to a properly sized unit at the redeveloped property. So temporary relocation may be required depending on the property's condition, but no resident can ever be permanently or involuntarily displaced. Under rescreening procedures, there was concern around residents at properties that undergo conversion not qualifying for housing assistance at the converted property. But the fact is that residents may not be rescreened as a new admission to the converted property. Any new financing must be structured to accommodate the residents that are going to be returning. And under resident consultation, there was lots of concerns raised around residents being unclear of the changes that are occurring and what it means for them. So we would like to reiterate that residents do receive a resident information notice, or RIN, as well as a general information notice, or GIN. And 2 consultation meetings are held before any formal application is submitted. And then again, there are additional meetings that will be held during application and once applications are approved to ensure that residents remain informed at all times throughout this conversion process. Get there. And so rent and affordability. So affordability, there was concerns raised that affordability would be lost or properties may become unaffordable for our most vulnerable, which are extremely low income or 0 to 30% AMI earners. And so we'd like to reiterate that residents will never pay more than 30% of their adjusted gross income. Again, around leases and displacements, a resident's lease cannot be terminated and they cannot be displaced. They must be renewed. Grievance procedures will remain, so residents will continue to have the right to request informal hearings and receive written decisions from the organization. And resident organizing also remains. Currently, residents have the option to bring together resident councils at public housing properties. Residents will continue to have that opportunity to organize and establish a formal resident organization. Funding is set aside for that at $25 per unit per year for tenant participation activities at these converted properties. And then again, around choice mobility, residents will have the ability to request to move with tenant-based voucher after returning to the property and remaining for a number, either 1 or 2 years. And so looking at the final strategy for long-term affordability and control. So there was lots of concerns raised around privatization, a change in ownership to different entities, or a change of ownership entirely. RAD conversion does require that the property remain under the ownership and control of the housing authority. And the property management will continue to be overseen by the housing authority. And then under long-term affordability, again, the long-term housing assistance contract, the HAP, must renew at each expiration. And a RAD use agreement that is also placed on the property does require the property to remain affordable perpetually. So now we ask for your approval of the Resolution 6921, which is approval of our FY 2027 MTW plan to submit to HUD for review and approval in time for our April 15th deadline. From there, again, we would coordinate with HUD on any questions or concerns or edits that they have for hopeful implementation by July 1st, the start of our organization's fiscal year. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Absolutely.
I have
Yes, ma'am.
just a few questions to ask that are, I think, kind of basic, and I'm sure there are others. There was some mention earlier that RAD units could be sold off as condos. It doesn't sound like that's possible.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Another quick question. We hear consistently when we're out in the community, and again, thank you to staff. I know how hard it is to come out to the communities and to be not at the building that's all set up with the AV and everything, but we hear consistently from residents that there are problems with people propping doors open and using rocks and letting people in. And I know that the policy says that they're not supposed to do that. Do we have any way of enforcing that? I know we're installing more and more security cameras, but how do we address this issue? Because the safety issue, I think, is really critical.
Yes.
You just laid out all of our frustrations. But yes, the security cameras that are being installed will hopefully help those situations. And most of the issues arise in the back stairwell doors for our high rises and mid rises that are secure front doors. So hopefully the cameras will assist in that. The only other thing that we can ask is, working with other residents to help us remain informed and notified so we can zero in on who's doing it.
I do see security here, so will there be functionality with the new cameras that if someone is monitoring and they can let someone on the property know to shut the door? Shut the door.
Yeah, live monitoring. I don't have that yet.
What we have is we're getting alarms installed on those doors.
Thank you.
That's going to hopefully resolve the issue.
Okay, and then I have one more question. When I started as a commissioner a while back, we didn't seem to have like an emergency fund for residents who had some family hardship coming up and they needed just a small amount of money to address something. Do we have emergency funds? I know that we as an entity cannot forgive federal debt. Like, we are not allowed to say, no, you don't have to pay us back. But are there funds that residents can access that are not federal funds that could be used for family emergencies?
We do have a fund that helps support for rent. So if you do have a family who runs into a hardship situation where they don't have their rent, we will have a program that can help and support that. We just recently revised the eligibility criteria for that so that it won't be as difficult for them to access the dollars. And so I believe we just reissued that 1st of February. So we do have that fund, but it's specifically going to support them for rent.
Right, so maybe whatever money they do have that goes to the other issue and then the
Correct.
Funding. And that's funding we're raising from like the private, where's that money coming from that would help?
Those dollars are coming from our MTW funds.
Our development activity.
Development, I'm sorry, our real estate development. So every time you see a development come up and they show the use of those dollars when they present a development, it comes out of those buckets.
So like a market rate tenant is paying us and we're giving that money to people who need assistance with their rent, basically.
Theoretically, I'd say it would be developer fees that are rolling into our agency, but I believe Lorraine can specifically explain that a little bit better.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you. That's good.
You should probably go first. I'm gonna take a while.
Okay, thank you. I am excited to hear about the revisiting after hearing the public comments and getting the responses, things that were removed as well as edited. I'm so excited to hear that. It's important that we listened and action was taken, so I'm excited about that. I do have one question, is back on the community engagement again. You mentioned that sometimes flyers or information was given to management for them to disperse and give out in newsletters and other things. But it seems as if that wasn't quite as effective as it maybe could have been. Hindsight is 20/20. What will be the checks and balances to make sure that the management is actually getting the information out, other than just posting maybe in the mail room or having something in the front office where some residents maybe who are elderly or unable to leave their home may not see it? And I think one of the concerns for me would be is the one-on-one connection, or making sure that it can be stated it was posted on their door or it was handed to them personally, maybe when they came in to pay their rent or something like that. But what can be our checks and balances just to assure that the residents are being informed and to find out if the management is actually getting the word out?
Yeah, so our
I do
department.
understand the residents do speak to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
But that shouldn't necessarily be their job. But I love that we do communicate and get the word out, but that shouldn't be their job. So how do we do that? Thank you, Ben.
So our department is always, every year, taking lessons learned right from each public comment period. Last year, you know, we tried to do different timing of when we held these presentations to see if maybe more residents would come. And so we take those lessons learned, and we're constantly working with, and we've developed much stronger relationships with our operating departments. And I am constantly developing relationships with our property managers to ensure that they, if and where possible, can go door to door to post these, but also, as you stated, I know some of them were able to include them in kind of their the lease, each month's lease. So in the March lease, they were able to include that same flyer in the leases. I know it probably did not happen at every single property, but that's something that we're always working on to just make sure that we're meeting with our operating departments consistently throughout the year to maintain those relationships and keep pushing for including it in the lease paperwork, since we do know that every resident receives that. And as well as emails, we do like to make sure that all of the family properties we try to get, we understand that elderly disabled may not have their email, but at family properties especially, we're constantly pushing the emails. And then just also everywhere that the SDI department goes, when we have meetings with councils, letting councils know about it, because as we know, resident to resident, they may have more, a little bit more connection and able to tell them, hey, come with me to this meeting and let's go hear about it. So we're always working with our resident councils as well as with our community development initiatives department to include as much marketing as possible. But lastly, always, it's very difficult with this MTW Move to Work plan, especially since it's a federal policy. It's just an annual plan. It really, within the past few years, has not had much interaction, right? Because residents kind of see it as, well, it's just policy. It's nothing that affects me. That's kind of the difficulty that we run into a lot. And so every time we go out to residents, especially within these past few years, are really reminding them that this is an annual process. So please, keep an eye out for it next year. It happens around the same time every year, right? In usually mid-February, that's when the open comment period always starts. So always reminding our residents as well to keep an eye on it every single year, because it is policy that affects them. That's kind of been the biggest barrier, is just kind of showing residents how important it is and getting them to come to these presentations. But we're constantly working on upgrading our marketing materials every year.
And thank you for being willing to grow and constantly change and enhance that. I appreciate it.
I also wanted to add that we work with our public relations, our communications department, to help us, put together the brand standards and the flyers and all of that. But one thing we didn't really touch on this year was the social media campaign, or something a little bit more wide-reaching. So definitely, we're excited now to be able to work a little bit more closely with our communications department. And again, we see how effective those are, and we're trying to look for where our residents are plugged into, so that we can plug into those same areas that they're connected to.
I love that. I would like just, real quick and I'm done. With that communications department, and I don't know what the budget is for this, is making sure that messaging is very important, so it's understandable, that they don't have to try to figure out what the policy means before they could even have a full discussion with it. That messaging is going to be very important, because that one message, that one sound will help to keep down the confusion and the chaos. And hopefully invite more people to come in and make comments, because it is palatable, it's understandable, and they can see how it applies. So it's like you just said, it's just another policy. Thank you.
I just had some curiosity, what does the messaging say? What does that flyer say? What does that email say?
So usually when we send out the email and or flyer, it is a one-pager that just states that policy changes are occurring, updates are occurring. Our annual MTW plan is now about to be posted for public comment, and we'll list out all of we'll send a flyer directly to the public housing properties with all of the public housing in-person presentations that are occurring, as well as the main website, which is where they can find all of the documents. And then we have a separate flyer with the same messaging, just saying that Housing Choice Voucher participants, updates are coming as well, and this is where you can find all of the documentation. So it's usually just a one-pager that gets sent out via email and printed as well.
Do y'all ever collaborate with any of, the community groups to help with that messaging?
In the past, we have not, no.
Something that y'all would entertain, just to make sure that it's...
We can definitely, we know that the community groups are boots on the ground with our residents oftentimes, and so we're always also working with our CDI department, who is also boots on the ground more often with residents, to really push the messaging, but we are definitely open to working with our external groups to help promote this more.
Thank you.
What's the total amount of residents this affects?
I'm sorry?
Do you have an idea what the total amount of residents this MTW affects?
It affects all of public housing and HCV. I mean, so even minor updates, it's within their administrative or their ACOP plan. So it affects all public housing residents as well as all housing choice voucher residents, which about 46,000 of our residents.
So I guess 0.3% is a really low socialization rate for these really weighty topics. That even takes some of us commissioners hours to understand. I think it's hard for community to support something like this and the commissioners to support something like this when we know the community doesn't have a real good grasp on what's at hand.
I have another question regarding an issue that was raised earlier with regard to unit maintenance. What are the restrictions on unit maintenance, and what are our response times running right now? You may not be able to answer that one, but I hope you can.
I actually do have the data, I just don't have it memorized. But, so our response times and work orders are handled within our policy framework. There's always outliers of ones that have taken longer than expected. But the bulk of the change or the adjustment in the policy is really to reiterate not to hire outside vendors. We've talked about and seen where residents at some of our properties where, you know how old some of these units are. So the infrastructure, meaning the electrical, can't sustain a portable washer, dishwasher, but they plug them in anyway. Or there may be some other damage, they bring someone who is not licensed to do a repair. Those are our concerns. Someone asked me a question the other day about a light bulb. I'm not worried about a light bulb. If someone comes in and installs their own light bulb, I'm not going to worry about it. If they come in and redo the wiring or install their own water heater, I'm going to worry about it. And if something goes wrong, whether that's an electrical issue, a fire, because of that install, we have no idea. They may not be, licensed. So those are the bigger concerns that we have, which is why we talked about talking to management, getting your work orders in, following up. There's protocols in place that if their maintenance work order hasn't been completed timely, we get calls at central office every day to follow up on those issues. And so we want to make sure that we're there.
At a future meeting, I would love to have more follow-up, or maybe you could just provide the commissioners with information about the work order timing, just so that we can, because I know that in years past, I guess, even that follow-up with the call, that not necessarily all calls were answered, that we didn't have enough staff really to answer the volume of calls that we were getting. So I would just want to make sure that that we are meeting our work order timeliness, and that we have some method of monitoring that to make sure that that's, part of our regular dashboard.
It is, and there's also, we have staff at the main office, at least in the public housing side as well, that are monitoring it. Also keep in mind that when HUD Inspire inspector comes out, they look at that. They look at our data, they look at our response times to make sure that we're matching policy. So if they find that we're outside that policy, we get, a finding and say, how do you fix this? And so we have to provide a response. So it's not just us looking at the numbers. We've got external agencies, meaning HUD, looking at our processes. But I can provide the info before the end of the meeting. So
Be great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, my turn. There's so many things. You guys brought up so much more. I will start with the public engagement. And again, they said the numbers, 46,000 on the vouchers and 65,000 in public housing. That's a lot of people to only have 100 participants in this. And that's exactly what people are saying, is that there was not near what there should have been in engagement. I have the great honor of serving on the Building Standards Board. It's a quasi-judicial board, meaning it's a civil court where judges, our orders are court orders. And when you have to make very serious decisions around someone's home, it is absolutely imperative that you take that responsibility very seriously and to ensure as much engagement as possible. One of the things that we do as a board is every 3 years when we have to update the San Antonio Property Maintenance Code, the SAPMC, and it follows in line with the International Property Code that they bring down their edits, and then we create a subcommittee from the Building Standards Board. And the last 2 rounds, I've been the chair of that subcommittee. And we go line by line through all the edits. And in a public comment forum, an open meeting forum, where people can come and make their comments about each individual edit or change. And this happens well before the deadline. We should not be publishing edits in February for a 30-day comment with a deadline of April 15th. That does not give enough time. It doesn't give an explanation to people, and it does not give them the opportunity to engage. Having said that, I'm very, very happy that the solicitation is gone. I'm very happy the recording is gone. There's a few things that I still want to discuss here. First, the elimination of negative rents. So it's showing that it's going to affect 1,028 public housing households that are supposedly able-bodied or work able. How does that definition come about?
So that's a HUD definition. So we would follow the HUD standard there to determine what is a work able or a.
And how does HUD determine if someone is disabled?
I don't have the. Do you have the definition of elderly disabled? The HUD definition of elderly disabled versus work able?
Yeah, disabled, I'm sorry. Elderly is 62. Sorry, elderly is 62 years of age or older. Disabled, they have to show proof of their disability. So they can be even younger.
What is
than 62.
acceptable for proof of disability?
It can be a variety of things. It can be obviously if you're, paraplegic. It could be hearing. It could be visual. There's a multiple.
I'm not asking about
situation.
the types of disabilities. What's acceptable documentation?
Well, obviously some of it's perceived, and then others would be from some type of physician if there's mental disabilities and the like.
Okay, so a doctor's note would be acceptable.
Right.
So there's a reason I'm asking this. And out of these 1,028 households that are supposedly able-bodied to work, how many of them are waiting for that paperwork to come through? How many of them are the sole caregiver of a family member that is disabled? When you have disabled children, like I do, your income counts against your kids. You do not get the extra help that an adult with disability has, like you don't get a paid caregiver. And for example, my son's check was zeroed out the moment that I started having a little bit of an income. So for those folks that don't have a little bit of an income and have to be 24/7 with their kids, there's no help until their kid turns 18. How many of these families that is the case? This is the reason why, well, not the only reason. There's so many reasons why this is bad.
Okay.
Taking away someone's utility payment, yes, I understand they have a zero rent. The language of this right here, I'm going to read it out to you. It says that this activity would result in greater cost effectiveness of federal dollars by eliminating reimbursement checks sent to households with negative rent. This elimination would ease administrative burden on staff, and the savings resulting from this activity can be redirected towards other agency needs. This activity would also promote economic self-sufficiency of work-able households. What this is telling me is this activity will tell people to go get a job. This activity will punish those who do not have a rent payment to where they can't pay their utility payments because they have zero rent. Everyone should get that utility and reimbursement because it's so small. I have a 3-bedroom unit. My utility reimbursement is $107. My light bill, $250, $300 during the summer. That reimbursement doesn't pay all of it, but it helps. So having a hardship waiver, we're in public housing. We're always in hardship, 24/7. When are we not in hardship? So I am very, very against this.
Okay. As was mentioned earlier, this plan allows us to evaluate it even further, so not necessarily implement it right away. And so those are duly noted concerns, and I think we need to assess and evaluate the population that may be impacted.
Now, section 16.3, or 16-.3.b, section 2, where it changes from rents to debts. I hear it all the time. Oh, they're behind on the rents. A couple years ago, 600 notices to vacate went out. They're behind on the rent. It only shows on your statement the first month that you were billed a maintenance fee or a late fee or anything else. The very next month, it's all put together. There's no, this is maintenance that's behind, this is late fees that's behind, this is the fee you were assessed because the dog dragged trash across your yard and it's in your yard, so you're gonna get that fee. Like, none of that is separated out from the rent on your statement after that first month. The first month it is, when it's assessed, and then every consecutive month after that, it just shows past due balance. So, when I personally, along with many, many folks, went and knocked on 600 doors and went through 200 to 300 rental ledgers, guess what I found? That they weren't actually behind on the rent. At some point, their rent payments had gone to maintenance and those fees, and now it's just been in past due balance for God knows how long. So I really want to keep it at rent. Changing it to debt would include unnecessary fees, and I'm bringing this up because HUD does not require Opportunity Homes or any public housing authority to assess any fee whatsoever. Every fee that we assess is optional, and it is waivable. We cannot waive rents at all. We don't have to charge fees, and we do. So let's keep it at people not paying rents, not people that can't afford a maintenance fee. And then, so much, sorry. The repayment agreements, you know, I don't know what it was pre-COVID. I wasn't paying attention at the time. I was too busy dealing with my own eviction. But it was an improvement. And there were other things that Opportunity Homes has done to improve the lives of tenants. 2017, 2018, 2019 was horrific for tenants to be in public housing, and it has changed dramatically. It has gotten so much better. Staff has gotten so much better. Like, it's made a huge difference. So repayment agreement, why would we get rid of it if it helps keep people housed? And that's our mission statement. We are supposed to be doing everything humanly possible. I'm not saying ignore the fact that someone hasn't paid rent for 5 years. Like, no, that's ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. I'm talking about somebody who's 2 or 3 months behind that usually pays the rent on time. It should be a case-by-case basis, not an elimination of the entire thing. One more. I'm so, I know, I hear you. The maintenance systems, well, and the keys. I'm glad you made the updated language to the keys. I'm a grown person. I'm not going to give a visitor list to the office. It's just not. It's not right. And the maintenance. So, Domingo, you still here?
Next one.
So, when I came into Opportunity Homes in 2017, Domingo was giving a class on the orientation. We were required to go through a 4-hour orientation. And funny thing, I had to do it twice. So one of the things that Domingo told all of us is, you don't want to have to end up paying that maintenance fee. If it's something that you can take care of yourself, why would you not do that? I remember you were giving a class, a workshop on so many different things, and tenants were encouraged, change your own fire extinguisher battery, keep it. That's the class that you used to give back in 2017. We're talking, but this can be used, and I've seen it used. I saw it used in 2018 at Alazon against tenants. And I'm not saying this is specific language, but other instances where, okay, they need a reason to get to you because they think something else is going on, so they're going to use this as an excuse to get to you. We don't want that to happen. And the way that it translates between folks at the main office and, you and like higher ups and all the way down to the property levels, it's a very big difference. You may not be aware that it happens, but again, 600 notices of vacate went out. I went and knocked on 600 doors, and I helped a lot of tenants, and it's atrocious, some of the things that are happening on property by staff. So we need to protect tenants, and that's my last thing.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, can we update the language on this at least to be permitted things on the maintenance? Like, you can't do any work that's required permit, that requires a permit or a license. And I can tell you the only things in Texas that require a license is HVAC, electrical, and plumbing.
What's our timeline? You got to get it in by April 15th. Yeah, we can make some adjustments so that it's not nitpicking on
Yes,
a light bulb or
exactly. That's,
a towel bar that can be put back on by the resident.
thank you.
Do we have further discussion or questions? Okay, thank you, Nicholas.
Oh, yeah, this is an action item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It'd be an action item with the modification to lease, to what Commissioner Miranda just noted, the maintenance and systems.
Okay. Doug, can we still call for a vote with minor adjustments?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So you can
thank
say,
you.
make a motion to approve the plan with the adjustments as noted.
Pending adjustments, okay. We are just going to wait on Commissioner Johnson, and we will move forward with the vote. Okay, we're ready to get started again. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We will go ahead and call
Call for a motion on Resolution 6921. Do I have a first?
So moved.
And a second? Oh, I'm sorry.
The motion has to have minor adjustments, right?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Move to approve with the adjustments to language recommended by Commissioner Miranda regarding maintenance. Is that adequate, Attorney?
You're seeking a motion to approve the moving to work agency plan with the changes recommended as you stated.
With regard to unit.
Right, that's what you're doing.
Unit maintenance, yes.
And what about I'm sorry, I'm losing it, the negative rents.
I think that's all included.
The negative rents, I don't believe that was a change to language. They discussed continuing to monitor, and since it isn't a guaranteed implementation at this time, they're open to continuing to evaluate and make sure that it is the best course of action.
Could we add that policy would have to be brought back to the board before implementation?
As long as it doesn't conflict with the process that you have to adhere to federally.
Yes, once the MTW plan is approved, then anything within that plan can be moved forward with at any time. But
Nicholas, it does require a 30-day reset, right?
if we were to substantially change something, yes.
Now I'm confused.
So, I was gonna say, well, what we can do is bring it back before, should we decide to implement, we can bring it back before implementation moves forward with the implementation plan.
That sounds reasonable. So that's two changes to the motion. Right, okay.
So we need a second now.
Can we recap? What are we doing?
So I asked for a motion to Resolution 6921 with pending changes as suggested by Commissioner Miranda, and also with the condition that they will come back to the board if implementation of RPAs proceeds.
Negative rent.
I'm sorry?
The negative rent.
Oh, negative rents, I'm sorry. Negative rents goes into play.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a first. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and second. All those in favor, say aye.
Discussion.
Aye.
All
I had a
those,
question. You
Oh.
didn't call discussion. I had a question.
oh, I'm sorry.
And this includes the RAD conversion?
It does include the RAD conversion.
All right, that's what I wanted.
You can proceed, ma'am, sorry. You can proceed with the vote. So you
Okay.
called for ayes and there were a number of them? Now you're calling for nays?
Yes. All those opposed?
I'm opposed.
With all of our votes in, the Resolution 6921 is approved and is passed.
Thank you.
Item number 6, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6916, ratifying the award of a contract for Mid-Crown Senior Pavilion interior and exterior improvements. George Ayala, Director of Procurement. Hector Martinez, Senior Director of Capital Projects.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is George Ayala. I'm the Director of Procurement. I'm here today to present the next 3 items for your consideration and approval. First one is the first resolution before you is Resolution 6916, which seeks to ratify a contract award for interior and exterior improvements at Mid-Crown Senior Pavilion. Before discussing the procurement process, I would like to share some project details. Mid-Crown is a 196-unit senior community located in District 2. This project is a comprehensive modernization effort, which it entails externally and internally modernizations. Externally, we are performing a full roof and partial siding replacement. Internally, we are conducting full unit renovations, including new flooring, paint, and kitchen and bathroom fixtures. Most importantly, this includes a total overhaul of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, and the modernization of a 3-passenger elevator to ensure that it meets current accessibility standards. Regarding the procurement process, we issued an RFP in November of 2025 and directly solicited over 700 vendors, of which 59 vendors were document takers. At the conclusion of the solicitation period, we received 3 proposals, and they were evaluated on experience, project management, financial capacity, cost proposal, and both Section 3 and SWIMBY plans. After evaluating all proposals, Geofield Construction emerged as the highest rated proposer, and after negotiating or asking for a best and final offer, we arrived at the total cost of $4,952,746, which includes the base bid, select alternatives, and a 10% contingency. This is being brought to you as a ratification today because we utilized the President and CEO Emergency Action Authority to move this city bond project forward and avoid any construction delays. At this time, we are recommending the approval to formalize this award.
Okay, any discussion or questions with regard to this resolution? No? No?
Just to note, thanks to the citizens who voted for the housing bond and made these funds available for improvement of our residents' homes.
And for clarity, you said this is full roof, new flooring, and an elevator?
Yes, so it's those components in addition to the interior repairs as well.
The interior repairs, okay, thank you.
Okay. I request a motion to approve Resolution 6916. Do I have a first?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
I second.
We have a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, may I call for all those in favor to say aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Item number 7, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6923, authorizing the award of contracts for pest control services for affordable housing communities. George Ayala, you're up again.
Next, we have the Resolution 6923, which we are requesting the award of contracts for pest control services across our affordable housing communities. Our Opportunity Home requires vendors to provide pest control services to affordable housing communities. Our goal is to transition from a simple spraying towards a robust integrated pest management system. This approach focuses on inspections, physical barriers, and biological controls. Under this contract, units will be serviced every 30 days, and common areas like lobbies and laundry rooms will be treated every 2 weeks. With regards to the procurement process, we issued an RFP in December of 2025 and directly solicited 126 vendors, which 22 of those vendors were document takers. At the conclusion of this solicitation, we received 3 proposals. Those 3 proposals were evaluated on relevant experience, key personnel, method, capacity, price, and both Section 3 and SWIMBY plans. To ensure we have the capacity to cover all properties, staff is recommending the award of contracts to all 3 qualified respondents: Nova Pest Control, Pied Piper Pest Control, and Worldwide Pest Control. All 3 are SWIMBY certified firms and with proven track records. The financial impact for this award is estimated at $200,000 annually, funded through property operating budgets, and at this time, we're asking for the initial 1-year term with the option to renew up to 4 additional terms as well.
Okay, I will entertain any discussion or questions.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Did we personally talk to any references for any of these potential vendors?
Yes, ma'am. So during the process of evaluating, we do look at their past experience, and we do collect the information about their references, and we do reach out to them. Most of these vendors do provide services to us already, so we have a monitoring system where we track vendor performance as well.
And that tracking system, does it include reviews, like personal reviews from the residents that are receiving the services?
Not at this
Or
time.
any of commercial?
Not at this time. We haven't integrated a program where we take the feedback from our residents. However, any concerns that are brought up to our maintenance supervisors are being tracked as well.
I'm a Yelp review reader.
Yes, sir.
I'm an Amazon review reader. Before I purchase anything, I'm reading through as many reviews as possible. Are we looking through any reviews that may be out there, period, about a company?
Yes, as part of our due diligence, we do check our government sites, and we also do a quick Google search where we kind of look at any news that's happening involving these companies.
Awesome, thank you so much.
I have one quick question. Are pest control services, are those licensed entities?
Yes, ma'am. So the state of
And
Texas.
are we checking those licenses?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the state of Texas does require for our pest control companies to be licensed. Those are initially checked, and they are obligated by the contract to let us know if there's any termination or lapse in their coverage of the licenses.
Thank you.
Is there any way that they can switch out, like, what they're using, like, on a consistent basis? Because the roach population tends to build up a tolerance to the, and it sounds really bad, but it's almost like they're worse after we get to pest control than before. And like, even I find myself having to find alternative means of pest control. A whole lot of boric acid, old fashioned. But yeah, they really need to switch out what they're using.
Yes, ma'am. So recently, we had a conversation with most of these vendors regarding our other side of the house, the public housing side. So we did have a conversation with them, and we came up with a couple of different methods that we are brainstorming in order for us to change our plans on how we treat our pest control contract. This requires for us to kind of get somebody that's specialized in looking at our properties and coming up with a more detailed plan that might work specifically to that property. Like you said, like sometimes you spray and they just move up. So those kind of things, the approach that is being taken, those are things that hopefully we can get this plan and help us control this pest.
Are we satisfied? No further discussion or questions? Okay. I will call for a motion to approve Resolution 6923. Do I have a first? And a second?
Second.
We've got a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, I will ask everyone to say aye if you are in favor.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and is adopted. Okay, item number 8, and you're with us again, George.
Yes.
Consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6929, authorizing the award of a contract for tax credit consulting services.
Okay. My final resolution that I'm presenting is Resolution 6929 regarding tax credit consulting services. While the board previously approved a single firm for this work back in February, our current volume and planned preservation and expansion projects has grown significantly. To ensure that we have a specialized bandwidth to secure funding and maintain compliance for all these projects, staff is recommending that we utilize both firms that responded to this solicitation. These firms, Bechtel Consulting and a joint venture between S. Anderson Consulting and JC Development Consulting, will be our partners in evaluating project feasibility, managing the complex state application process for tax credits. The anticipated annual cost is not to exceed $600,000. It is important to note that while these services are initially funded by real estate services, they are eventually reimbursed at the project closing, meaning that the costs are going to be captured within the development deals themselves. At this time, I will entertain any questions that you all might have.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Same question from me.
Yes.
The vetting process. How robust is that?
So when it comes to our process of evaluating, we ask for the same type of information. We ask for the company history. We look at their experience. We actually set a couple of minimum qualifications that we need to have. Like, for example, I believe in this case it was 5 years of minimum experience. We typically ask for references, and those references have to be recent references as well. So we do follow the same process that we do our due diligence, look at any federal websites, like our SAM.gov. We look at state federal debarred list. We look at Google searches as well, and bring that information back collectively back to the group.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. Since there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and request a motion to approve 6929.
Do I have a first?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We've got a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, I will ask for all those in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes and resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 9, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6927, bless you, authorizing participation in the Lakeside Lofts transaction. Timothy E. Alcott, Executive Vice President of Development and General Counsel.
As I. So, just a reminder for the board, especially for the newer board members, you see these 4% projects 3 times. And so, on today's agenda, you will see that we have earned medals, and that's the first time, so that's inducement. That's when we apply for the bonds. And then we have a few projects, and Rebecca's doing the first one, Rebecca Cerna, and then Nick Delaney will be presenting Quantum, the 2 Rios projects, and that's the second time. The second time is whenever we actually can enter into an MOU, we create the partnerships and things of that nature. And the one that we're bringing you now is the super duper final one. And so this is one is called Lakeside Lofts. We have Deborah Guerrero here. She's right there. And she's going to be our housing provider on this particular project. And so we're seeking for final approval to undertake the acquisition, construction, and financing of a brand new 4% tax credit development. It's on the far east side. Am I controlling this? Oh, I'm sorry. It's on the far. Let me go back. Sorry. There we go. It's with the Las Faras Facility Corporation. What you should know about this project that's kind of unusual because we haven't done this very often, but this one we actually are providing the construction financing for $45 million. And that actually made this project work, which is why we chose this one. By doing the construction financing, we were able to drop the costs because at the time this first came to us, there was large gaps, and this is one of the ways we were able, financial gaps, one of the ways to actually make this project actually happen. And this is the second one we've done, the construction financing guarantees, and the first one was on, I can't think of the name of it right now, but thank you, Central Road Commerce, thank you, Central Road Commerce project. And this one also, as I mentioned before, we've seen this a couple other times. We brought it back in October 9th, 2024 for the bond inducement, April 2nd for the MOU. We got a resolution of no objection from the city, so the city is supportive of this project. The last approval we'll need is the city is a TEFRA hearing, which is on April 16th. And then we're closing on April 28th, and so you'll see dirt moving right after. So this is at the very, very end of the cycle of all the approvals. So we're really excited about this project. The next slide you'll see the location. And in anticipation of Commissioner Johnson's question that she may ask, we had some conversations. And one of the things we really liked about this site is that the proximity to bus stops. There's actually some on the site. And so whenever you say it's close, it's very close. And I was talking to Deborah Guerrero beforehand, they're actually making it ADA accessible to the site as well. So the location was a big draw for this particular development. The other thing that's interesting about it is that all the first floor units are ADA accessible or convertible. So all the units, I should point this way. And then you'll see that this is a 4% tax credit deal, which is really exciting because this is it's mission oriented as well. You'll see 23 of the units are 0 to 30% AMI. And on the 1 bedrooms, just to give you a sense of what the cost would be, in the pro forma, it's $457 for a 1 bedroom on a brand new development. And so that's very affordable for a 1 bedroom, right? And then just because I like to give you the extremes. The most expensive one development is a 4-bedroom, and you'll see there's 48 4 bedrooms on this one. And the most expensive one at the highest AMI is $1,813. So you have from $457 to $1,813. And we did this through income averaging, which is why we have some at different levels. The land cost was $5.5 million, hard cost $47 million. You did all the math, that is $270,000 a unit, total project cost of $90 million. I was gonna flip it over. And this is one, again, you see the same slide on all of our presentations, but any revenues that are generated from this project, first of all, we're actually already building 0 to 30% MIs. A lot of the money is going to be staying here. But we do have a fee splitting agreement that we've gone over before with our housing provider. And this is the slide that shows where all the funds go. So what I'm seeking for today is final approval to go forward with this project and get work started at the end of the month. Any questions? I took your question already. Chair Johnson.
You answered one of my major ones. I know you've spoken to us about this one. Can you refresh me on the amenities, and will these apartments be energy efficient?
They will be. It's a first-class night. I had a amenity page.
No, I mean, all of our appliances are energy efficient, as well as Deborah Guerrero with the NRP group. All of our energy efficient and absolutely in terms of central air and heat, et cetera.
Okay.
But I'm sorry. But it's just like it's like a first-class apartment complex. I'm going to hand you this handout. It's really loud. But it has a swim pool, it has a community area, has a weight room, has a beautiful pool. But I'm going to give you the handout on it. Community center. So it's a beautiful first-class apartment complex.
Thank you.
That was this one that this time.
That's right. Okay.
Sorry. He's taller than us.
Any additional questions or discussion? No? Okay.
There will be resident services.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Given that there are no additional discussion or questions, I request a motion to approve Resolution 6927. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I have a first and second, and if there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Item number 10, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6928, authorizing the participation of San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation in a public-private partnership related to the rehabilitation and financing of the Flynn Meadows project. Rebecca Serna, Project Manager, 1 Development Services and Neighborhood Revitalization. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I am bringing forward the Flynn Meadows project. Oh, she moved it from here, okay. So, as Tim discussed, normally you're going to see this project come to you 3 times. The first time is for bond inducement, which was previously approved on October 1st, 2025. The second time is today, so we're seeking approval to expand our role to become the general partner and negotiate the memorandum of understanding, which is the MOU for this 4% tax credit, tax-exempt bond partnership. The MOU will be between our San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation entity and Related Affordable, which is the housing provider. And then the last time will be for final approval of the partnership terms and financing. Thank you. This project is located inside 410 where Ingram and Callahan intersect off of Callahan and Flynn Street. To answer her questions, it's actually approximately 3.3 miles from a Via bus stop where bus route 89 and 90 run. The map shows you where it's located at, and it's within direct area of Ingram Park Mall, Idea Ingram Hills, and within a 5-mile radius between Forest Hills Library and Holmes High School. Just to provide some insight as where it's located. Next slide. Okay, so this is an existing property. This is a preservation and rehabilitation project. It's located within City Council District 7, within the Northside Independent School District. It's a total of 120 units, ranging between 30% AMI to 60% area median income, and the unit mixes are between 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. So it is 100% affordable. The next slide. Okay, so this slide shows the project costs, which shows the project breakdown, which shows that there's about approximately $12 million in land costs and residential improvement costs. Hard costs, approximately $13.9 million. Soft costs, $10.4 million. The average per unit cost is about $303,450, and the total project cost is approximately $36.4 million. And then the last slide is just a reminder that all our proceeds from this project will help support very low-income residents by preserving, expanding, sustaining affordable housing and resident services, including funding budget gaps in affordable housing projects. And that's all I have for you today. Do you have any questions?
Go ahead. I do have a question. We see quite a range. This is a rehab of an existing project that, on the face of it, has a higher per unit cost than a new construction of a Class A unit. So can you talk a little bit about that range and why it's cost effective? And I understand that if we didn't invest in it, there would be a deteriorated project which would impact the neighborhood. But talk a little bit about why this project makes sense given those per unit costs.
So at the moment, this project is not actually fully ADA accessible, so the additional rehabilitation costs are actually going to go towards those deficiencies and address that during the redevelopment of the scope. A portion of the improvements are also going towards Wi-Fi to be available to all residents. And I'm sorry, our developer is not here right now.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand, and it does make sense that retrofitting an existing project to bring it up to accessibility standards would be more expensive than being able to build those or bake those things in from the beginning. So that's a very helpful answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Just one of clarity. You said 3.5 miles from the Via stop or 0.5?
0.3.
0.3?
A little over a quarter, yes.
Oh, I heard it all the way wrong. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no additional questions, thank you.
And I will request a motion to approve Resolution 6928. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second, and if there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 11, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6926, authorizing the participation of San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation in the Rio Crossing Apartments transaction. Nicholas Delaney, Project Manager, Development Services and Neighborhood Revitalization.
May I ask you a question before you start?
Yes.
Would it be helpful to do all three?
Yes.
And then we can go ahead and
Absolutely.
move?
Yes, Commissioner, thank you.
So he's also going to present item number 12, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6925, authorizing the participation of San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation in the Rio Landing Apartments transaction, as well as item number 13, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6924, authorizing the participation of the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation in the Quantum Drive Apartments transaction.
Thank you so much. So I'm bringing 3 projects to you today. The first is Rio Crossing. As mentioned previously, we're asking for that third approval for this 4% tax credit and bond process. This allows us to negotiate financing, to kind of negotiate the general partnership through an MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding. This first project, Rio Crossing, was approved by the board October 1st, 2025 for bond inducement. The MOU would be between our affiliated entity, San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation, and GDA Partners, that is the housing provider. These are non-binding resolutions at this point. We'll come back for a final approval to finalize those terms. So all the terms and data is approximate currently. The project, Rio Crossing, is off of 410 and in between W.W. Wright Road and Sinclair Road. It's located on the southeast side of San Antonio. The bus stop is located at the corner of Sinclair Road and W.W. Wright Road. Currently, the project design is ADA accessible, and in the current design proposal, there is an accessible route to the route that leads to the bus stop. In the surrounding area, it is located near Jupe Manor Neighborhood Park. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, access off 410. Within a 10-mile radius, it's near Highlands High School, restaurants and retail, distribution centers and service centers, as well as AT&T Center, so some workforce opportunities within that area. This project is new construction. It's located in City Council District 3. It's a part of San Antonio Independent School District. It's the proposal of 324 units to be constructed, all restricted with families serving below 60% of the area median income. This project is 100% affordable, so no market rate units proposed. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units are proposed in this development. Currently, the budget is at approximately $68.5 million. The land cost is around $5.4 million. Hard cost is approximated at $42 million. Soft costs are approximately $21.4 million, and the average per unit cost is $211,000, approximately. Once again, any proceeds from this project will help support very low-income residents by preserving, expanding, and sustaining affordable housing and resident services. Is there any question? Oh, we'll move on to the next one.
Nicholas, how much will the 1 bedrooms be?
That I can turn it over to Becca. I think may I have that.
I'm sorry.
The bedroom rent for 1 bedroom proposed.
Real great.
And at 60.
Well, these are units that are going to be, sorry, I'm with Becca Consulting, and I'm sorry I don't have that right on me, but I do know how to access it and get to it. These are going to be 50% and 60% units. All units are going to be restricted, so I can get that. Is it the 1 bedroom you're looking for? Okay, I will let Nicholas kind of.
Just trying to get an idea of.
Yeah. So this is for Rio Landing and Rio Crossing. They look very similar. These are the same 2 developers. So the rents are going to look exactly the same. So I'll go ahead and let Nicholas kind of do that while I go through my documents and get that. I apologize for not having that. Thank you.
We'll get that to the board once that's sent over. I'll coordinate that. Yes, ma'am. And typically, we've seen on other deals around $550 is the rent, base rent. But we'll get that solidified for you and sent over.
Thank you.
No problem. The next project is Rio Landing. It's similar to Rio Crossing in terms of the budget, but we'll get into that. We're asking for the same approval in terms of the role to become a general partner and negotiate an MOU. This project was also approved for bond inducement on October 1st, 2025. The MOU will be between our affiliated entity and GDA Partners. These are non-binding resolutions, so we will come back for a final approval to finalize terms. Rio Landing is located on the southwest side of San Antonio off Highway 90 and Military Drive. There is a bus stop located nearby, and it's also within 5 miles of the Via Metropolitan Transit Center, so that is a hub nearby. The intersection is located at Southwest Military Drive and Luke Boulevard. It's directly nearby Lackland Air Force Base, as well as some shopping centers are in the direct area or proximity of the site. And then within a 5-mile radius of Rainbow Hills Park, John Glenn Elementary School, John Jay High School, and Nelson Wolf Stadium.
I'm so sorry, if I may. The rents, so again, these are not, there's not 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, these are 50 and 60% units. So on the 50%, it's, for a one-bedroom, is $763. And these are 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm available if you need another rent amount.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And we can get the board a copy of that rent roll.
Thank you.
No problem. And so as this project is new construction as well. It's in City Council District 4, a part of San Antonio Independent School District. The proposed 324 units in this project as well, restricted below families that are 60% area median income or below. There might be a change on that in terms of 50%. We'll clarify that, so even a deeper affordability. We have a unit mix of 1 and 2 and 3 bedrooms proposed at this development. This development budget is similar to the last, approximately $68.5 million. The land cost is approximately $5.4 million. Hard costs, construction costs are around $42 million. Soft costs are approximately $21.4 million. And an average per unit cost is $211,000 approximately. The last project is asking for the same approval. This is Quantum Drive. We're joined with Dominium staff. David D'Amelio is here if you have any questions for the housing provider. We're asking for the same approval to negotiate, to become general partner and negotiate a memorandum of understanding. Once again, this is a 4% tax credit and bond deal. The board previously approved it in March 4th, 2026, for a regular board meeting. The MOU will be between our affiliated entity, San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation, and Dominium. And once again, these are non-binding resolutions, so we still will come back for a final approval after we negotiate terms. Quantum Drive is located on the southwest side of San Antonio, off 410 and Quantum Drive. It's the major thoroughfare is south of Ray Ellison Drive. This one is directly adjacent to a bus stop, so it's right across the street of the property. And it's on Quantum Drive. And this also has an ADA design as well, and a pathway that will connect to that bus route to the route, if that makes sense. Within that direct area is a Walmart Supercenter and Sun Valley Elementary School, and then within a 5-mile radius of Johnston Branch Library and Lackland Air Force Base. This is a new construction project. It sits within City Council District 4, a part of Southwest ISD. The proposed amount of units is 400 to be constructed. 40 units are restricted to families at 30% or below the area median income, so those are deeply affordable units. 275 at 60% AMI or below, and 85 units at 70% AMI or below. So 100% affordable, and there's no market in this proposed development. The unit mix consists of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. And the interesting here is that there's 4-bedroom units in this project, so serving more families at a greater size. This is a heavier, larger project, so the project cost is approximately $152 million. The land cost is approximately $6.3 million. Hard costs are around $90.5 million. Soft costs are around $55 million, and the per unit cost is at approximately $380,000. And just to note, the developer does put more investment in their materials and design, is why it's a little bit more increased.
I do have a question. Is this our first project with this developer?
Yes, Commissioner.
And we have had discussions with them, and they understand we've had issues in the past to making sure that our developers are aligned with our philosophy around not value engineering projects, around projects that are going to be that are going to hold their value over time and contribute to neighborhood quality. And it sounds like from the per unit cost that this is a pretty high quality project and larger units.
Yes, we go through a REDS committee or an internal committee That was brought up by, and I'll let the housing provider speak in just a moment, but that is the understanding, is that this is supposed to be a long-lasting investment, so a property that would last way beyond its years of compliance.
Thank you.
So yeah, probably the biggest driver of what's driving up the per unit cost is just the investment in the building materials. So we do sound mats in the units, we do solid core doors, we do moisture proofing in the roofs, we do vapor barriers under the building pads, and there's probably a lot of other things we do. The other thing too, and I don't know how much I should speak to this, but our financial proposal is a little different in that you're receiving an upfront payment of $2.5 million and basically all of the developer fees, which, you know, I think goes to show we value kind of the long-term value more than kind of the upfront profit. So
And you are?
I'm David. Yeah, sorry.
Nice to meet you.
I think that brings us into this slide. So any proceeds that we get, as David just mentioned, will go back to support low-income residents and the services listed. Yes, Commissioner.
How much are the 4 bedrooms on this one?
I'm sorry?
How much are the 4 bedrooms on this
Oh,
one? Thank you.
Pulled it up on my email.
Thank you.
I have 96 noted, but I'll confirm.
The 4-bedroom, 30% AMI unit is $795.
Oh,
There's
the price.
10 of those units only, just for the record. And then the 4-bedroom, 60% AMI unit is about $1,600. And the 4-bedroom, 70% AMI unit is about $1,900.
Thank you.
And we can get you that rent roll as well.
Thank
You need it. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I am going to request a motion, and I'm going to go individually per resolution. I'm going to request a motion to approve resolution number 6926. This is the Rio Crossing Apartments. Do I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and resolution is adopted. Item number 12, asking for a motion to approve Resolution 6925. This is the Rio Landing Apartments. Do I have a first?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and resolution is adopted. Item number 13, Resolution 6924. This is the Quantum Drive Apartments. I am requesting a first.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
We've got a first and second. If there's no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to discussion items.
The President's report.
Oh, President's report, yes.
Chairwoman and Commissioners, first, I want to thank you. We're keeping you here now close to the 4th hour. So we know this is volunteer time for you, and it's a huge commitment. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to volunteer your time to help us get through all of this. So we just appreciate you. So I'm going to go through this quickly. I'm standing between you and freedom. So let me get through this as quickly as I can. So first, Opportunity Home was honored on March 14th at the 11 Kids Gala with the General Goldfein and General Wilson Partnership Award, recognizing partnerships that expand opportunities for children and families. Through this collaboration, 11 Kids operates after-school learning centers at our Westway and Riverside apartments. And so we're really grateful for that partnership, and we're glad to participate in that recognition and receive that award. Building on that commitment to serving residents across all stages of life, we celebrated the groundbreaking of Alta Vista Jaime Martinez in the historic West Side on March 26. In support of the preservation of this affordable housing development, we issued $20 million in tax-exempt bonds. The project also received an award from the city's housing bond, and that $22 million development will provide 89 affordable homes for older adults, with a completion anticipated next year. We appreciate the partnership that helped bring this development forward, and we appreciate the historic West Side Residents Association for bringing this opportunity to us. As a follow-up to a previous update, I'm pleased to share that the mural at Casiano Homes has now been restored with an unveiling and blessing by Sister Rose on March 28th. The restoration was led by students and faculty from Our Lady of the Lake University alongside original artists. With the support from District 5 Council Office, this effort preserves a meaningful piece of the community's history while engaging a new generation in that work. It was great to be in there. We got to put our hands in holy water and bless the mural, and so it was just a great afternoon. I also like to recognize some of our employees who have been nominated by their peers for outstanding service. Araceli Alanis and Stephanie Blunt, Jonathan Henley, Kathleen Kramer, and Pierce Lindman. These recognitions reflect the strength of our workforce and the culture and service and accountability that sustains our mission. I'm grateful for their contributions and proud of the standard they set for our organization. And I just want to thank also the chair for the photo earlier. I think it was a nice reminder of the support that they have of the board in their work every day. So thank you.
Yes.
We participated in a community resource fair at Haven for Hope on March 6th, where staff shared information on available homes within our affordable housing communities portfolio, and that's our mixed income, mixed finance, nonprofit portfolio. The event provided an opportunity for individuals and families to connect with housing options and the application resources. During spring break, the Connect Home SA program partnered with the Family Service Association to host a 2-day STEM camp at the Best Buy Teen Tech Center. Students from our public housing communities explored hands-on projects in photography and opening the door to new interests and potential career pathways. And so we're really grateful for that partnership as well. The Little Caesars Love Kitchen truck visited Casiano Homes on March 17th, providing residents with free pizza and bringing the neighbors together. We're grateful to Little Caesars for their generosity for supporting our residents. The pizza was delicious, and really grateful for Chair Garcia Diaz for connecting us to this opportunity. On March 18th, I met with residents at Villa Veramendi and nearby communities during the Coffee with the CEO, where we discussed safety, resident services, and upcoming initiatives. A representative from the San Antonio Fire Department participated in the discussion to share important guidance on fire safety, including the proper use of emergency systems and the risks of false alarms. On March 19th, the CDI department partnered with Workforce Solutions Alamo to host a resident job fair at the Frank Garrett Center. The event connected residents with employers across multiple industries and provided support with resumes and interview preparation. 2 weeks ago, our employees and families participated in the 31st annual Basura Bash, contributing to San Antonio's largest one-day waterway cleanup. The team coordinated efforts along the Alazan Creek in District 5, helping create a cleaner, healthier environment for the surrounding community. And finally, I just want to highlight a few upcoming events. On April 4th, which is this weekend, we have the 16th Annual City Managers 5K Walk and Run. Nearly 500 Opportunity Home staff will participate in the event. 50, what did I say? I said 500. There was an extra zero on my note. Nearly 50 staff will participate in the event. That would be 100% participation. On April 14th, we will host the Central at Commerce groundbreaking. This is our new affordable housing community adjacent to the future Sports and Entertainment District and on the future Via Silver Line. The community called for more affordable housing downtown, and we are delivering it. So we hope you all can join on April 14th. On April 18th, we're doing SAISD's Mi Casa, Su Casa Resource Fair. On April 22nd, the Senior Resource Fair. And of course, April 24th and 25th, we have Fiesta. We have 2 major fundraisers during those events, and that's going to raise funds for a new 501c3 nonprofit which supports resident services. So that was a quick overview, but just want to make sure you all are aware of what's happening at the organization. And with that, that concludes the report.
Thank you. There's a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking the time to update us and let us know what's coming, so thank you for that. I am going to continue on with our agenda. Fellow board members, there are, in the packets that we received, there's additional reports and resources. I just want to make sure that no one has any questions with regard to those things prior to going into adjournment of the regular board meeting. No? Okay. So if there are no objections, I'm going to call for the adjournment of our regular board meeting. If there are none?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it is now 4:33, and we are adjourned from the regular board meeting. We will now move into the Las Vadas Public Facility Corporation meeting. Do you want to read us in?
The time is 4:34 p.m. and we may now enter the Las Vadas Public Facility Corporation. Note that all board members remain in attendance.
Okay, thank you very much. Since we don't have to go through roll call, we are all still here. I am going to open up this meeting at 4:34 p.m. Do we have any citizens to be heard?
There are no citizens signed up to speak.
Thank you so much. We do have to approve meeting minutes for the March 4th Las Vadas Public Facility Corporation. I call for a motion to approve those meeting minutes. Do I have a first?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
If there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and these minutes are adopted. So we are going to go through consent items. For consent items numbers, where am I? Consent item number 4?
Yes.
I think that's the only one. And we have already reviewed this information, so please understand that we've gone through the extent of it during the regular board meeting. Oh, sorry. So I will call for a motion to approve consent item number 4. Do I have a first?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And a second?
Second.
You've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and the resolution is adopted. I will now call for the adjournment, if there are no objections, of this meeting of Las Vadas Public Facility Corporation. No objections? Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, we are adjourned at 4:36 p.m. And now we will proceed on to the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting. Would you read us into that one?
Welcome to San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting on Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. All board members remain in attendance, and a continued reminder that this meeting is being recorded in its entirety. You may call the meeting to order.
Okay, I will now call this meeting to order at 4:36 p.m. Do we have any citizens to be heard?
There are no citizens signed up to speak.
Perfect, thank you. We do have some meeting minutes to approve. Approval of the March 4th, 2026 San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes and these minutes are adopted. We've got consent items numbers 4 through 8. I request a motion to approve these consent items numbers 4 through 8. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We also discussed all of these
Oh.
in the regular board meeting. So do I have a first? Yes? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and resolutions are adopted. I will now call this meeting to adjournment. If there are no objections, meeting is adjourned at 4:37 p.m. We done?
That's it.
We're done? We done. We made it.